start things formally, some house rules.
There are not that many. The first one is your phones. Can you put them into mute, into silent? And it can vibrate. And another one is that when we start, do you mind if we don't move up and down? I guess we are adults. And so there's nothing that is going to press us in the next 30 minutes for us to go outside. Another one, no, those are the only two. Only two rules, can you imagine? In this house, we have only two rules. It's for you not to go outside, and another one is just your phone, not to switch it off, but just put it on the silence mode. Do we agree with that rule?
Absolutely.
And so the sound that I heard surely was the last sound.
Surely.
Okay.
Definitely. Maybe not.
Can we? Yeah. Thanks. Can we not behave like the parliamentarians?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
How do they behave?
You don't need to look behind you because there is ENCA and also there is Voice on the Move, the news live. And so what we'll be discussing here is going to be live. And if you need a link, I can forward it to you. Just send me a WhatsApp and then I'll send you a link that you can send it to your colleagues, your friends, or whoever. And here I've negotiated for you to have an access for free. I'm a socialist. This one is for free. There is a code. They call it, Abanye, they say it is wife, and others say it's wife, and so whatever name, there is a code there. You can use that code. And I guess I've been generous enough. The most important thing is I'm not going to say thank you for coming, spending time with us. I have to say it early. I'm not going to do that. You don't owe me anything for you to come here, not at all. And I don't owe you anything for organizing this. But the people that we are indebted, Kubona, are our kids. Is the next generation. It's not us. And so we took this risk because we know it very well that you are on the exit in this phase of life. But you have to prepare the next generation to have a better existence in this phase while we are no longer here. It's very risky what we decided to embark upon. Is very risky, and so don't be shocked maybe in 2 weeks if the person who's speaking here is no more. And so don't be shocked. That's the fact. But there is a risk that is necessary for us to take. As I've said, all of us were on the transit. You see, we saw the Pope, even himself, is fighting not to exit this phase of life. But yeah, some of us, if it's a calling, it's a calling. We have to do this. It's not per se a discussion, what you are going to have today. But you'll be given an information that you have been suspecting of what has been happening in the city. And it's not allegations. You put that thing aside of allegation. That is an issue of courts and so forth. But us as citizens, when we talk about the moral and ethics, we don't use that word allegation because it sanctifies the perpetrators of crime. I, as Golane, I'm not alleged to be involved in any crime because I don't steal. That's what I'm sure of. But people that we know that they steal, they hide under allegation concepts until they get scot-free. We as society, we don't use allegations. We judge people according to the scales of moral and ethics. And so in life, we know that there is right and wrong. You don't are right or wrong because there's no technicality. It's caught people who use arguments to say, yeah, or what. But for us, we know if someone is stolen, and you can see, you know. Because they are measures. You know, you can't be a teacher and then your child is at Michael House and you stay at Zimbabwe, you know. But your partner, he works at the municipality. It makes no sense. We have a lens that we judge people with, is the moral ethics and the issue of integrity. And so today we are in that space where someone, fortunately, who exists in both worlds of moral integrity as well as on the other side of the technicalities and so forth, you know, he will give us the perspective, or he's not going to give us the perspective, he will give us the reality of what is happening in our municipality. And I've been saying in our communication that the sad part is, whatever that we do, we are destroying the future of the next generation. And we are the ones who celebrate when kids are being shot by the SAPS. But we don't do what Karl Marx termed as dialectical analysis, the cause and the effect, which what causes for those kids to be killed, or what make those kids to become criminals. We have never went into that analysis. Why we avoid that analysis is because we know that we are the perpetrators. We are the creators of these criminals. Because when you steal from the municipality, you are stealing the opportunities for a child to unleash his or her potential. And then they end up having no other option but to survive. And so the people that really need to be shot or to be killed is us. The people that need to be saved are those kids. But because we are so twisted in our conscience, we always find an easy way to say the people that need to be killed are these criminals. And we know who are the criminals. And the criminals are these 19 years old, 20 years old, 20 years old. But the people who steal 200 million from the coffers, they don't get shot. They move around with bodyguards. They get protected. But those criminals who are vulnerables, they get killed. And those criminals who are not vulnerable, we call them honorables. We expect them to provide services such as electricity and water and other basic essential services. But we know that they steal each and every day from us. If I can ask you, we know who are the criminals in our municipality as much as we know who are the criminals in our provincial government. How many of them who are behind bars? And how many of them who's there in a precarious state, just like a number of other citizens in this municipality? The answer is simple, no. They live in Gothic mansions. They live an aristocratic life, and they always tell us about morals and ethics. Can you imagine a thief that you know that this is a confirmed thief who will stand up and tell you about the morals and ethics, that they will deal with crimes, and then they call Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, ne? And then they will say they are coming up with a crime prevention strategy, but you could see that this is a criminal who's doing this thing. You see, and so I think, as I've said, the risk that we decided to embrace is a risk that possibly even the police, when I move around here, they can simply shoot me, and then they can plant a gun. You see, because the whole thing has been captured. We live in a narco states like Colombia, like Mexico. That's a reality. You see, and the number of people have been victimized, and they are sending messages to me. If you can find my phone, you know, more than 2,000 messages. People have been victimized. I have been asking them, if you've been victimized, why don't you stand up? And they say, no, I'm scared because I'll be victimized. But a victim is saying he's scared because he might be victimized, but he's telling me that he's being victimized. And so I always find it, you know, I find an irony to say we are a victim, but when I say stand up and speak, you say I'm going to be victimized. And so there are lots of people who are silent victims in our municipality and who are not liberated to still live under the apartheid, because crime that you are experiencing today, trust me, it surpassed the apartheid. I don't want to compare this democratic state with apartheid because we know it very well that it was not a state that was, you know, defined or classified as a state that is humane. But I think the one that we claim that is humane, when you do a comparative analysis in terms of Human Development Index, per capita income, in terms of GA coefficient, how many people who can afford the food basket, you'll find that we are surpassing the apartheid state. But the sad part is, we are the perpetrators. The victims today are the perpetrators of inhumane crime. Possibly we learn the best lessons from the apartheid. And so what makes us different from those Boere who were recruited for conscription to go out and kill? We are no longer different from them. Our bushes are our township, in Mjondolo. That's where we kill people each and every day. Through our greed, selfishness, and so forth. And so, Olio is going to take us that journey. There is an author, a French author by name of Dante. I'm not sure if you have read him. He wrote a longest poem, known as the Inferno. Read that poem. It's not different. The description that is in that poem is exactly what you are experiencing here at Ethekwini Municipality. Is exactly. Read that poem, Inferno by Dante. Is exactly what you are experiencing in this municipality. Having said that, let me introduce Leo. Surely I've gave you in our correspondence a concise profile of him, of who he is, in terms of academic, in terms of the bodies that he affiliated with, and also his experience in forensic investigation. I'm not going to say anything. He's the one who's going to say, we are going to say a lot. Even the breaking news, I'm not the one who's going to break them, he's the one who's going to do it. But what I will encourage you is that what he's going to tell us, let me tell you something, it's not going to shock you because you know the perpetrators. But I know we are here just to confirm. And so he will do that. And before I proceed, or before I hand over to Leo, I would like to, it's not because I'm a person of protocol. I hate that thing of protocol, really, I was once invited in another, and there were ministers, and then I said protocol observed because I didn't want to go through this hierarchy, Let me say protocol observed to people who's their ego, And so protocol observed. And so I'm forgiven. Leo, it's up to you.
Thank you.
Where do you want me to stand? There?
No problem.
Okay. I'm completely humbled. Unlike Olane, I'm grateful for you guys coming out tonight. I'm moved, and I'm completely moved by the fact that there are so many concerned citizens that love this country, that are dedicated to this country and are prepared to sacrifice Thursday evening to come out and look at uncomely fellows like myself and Olane. I stand before you guys as a sacrifice. I'm a living sacrifice. I listened to Xolani saying the possibility that in another 2 weeks from now, I may not be here. I'm cognizant of this. I've served this country in silence and in secrecy for the last 33 years. I started this service on the 10th of January 1992. So for more than 33 years, quietly and in the shadows, the better part of my adult life was spent dealing with fraud and corruption. And it migrated from fraud and corruption to racketeering and organized crime of epic proportions. I'm the director of a firm, Integrity Forensic Solutions, out here in Umhlanga. I'm an alumnus of some of the previous Big Four international firms who I won't mention in case they take umbrage for me just mentioning their names. South Africa has become litigious and people have become sensitive over little nothings. We seem to have taken it upon ourselves to focus on insignificant things and call right wrong and wrong right. That's the age we're in. Brief background, my academic qualifications have been circulated to you so you guys understand my educational background. I've also given you a brief extent of my experience over the last 33 years. But I'll touch on the last maybe 15 years or so, and the role I played, 15 to 20 years, and the role I played intimately involved with various organs of state, from the highest to the lowest officers in this land. Dealing with corruption, dealing with measures to combat corruption in those institutions, providing support to the state. You've seen in the public media that the media is replete with the allegation that the NPA fails and the DPCI, or the specialist hawks, as you would know them colloquially, fail to succeed in investigating and prosecuting high-profile cases. They say the reason for this, to you people who are the ratepayers and taxpayers of the country and society in general, blame for this shouldn't be left at their door. It's because of issues such as an absence of capacity, a lack of logistics and profiled legal teams, that the matters that they are called to attend to are complex in nature, and the complexity of these matters doesn't give them the capacity, in inverted commas, to successfully and timely prosecute these matters. Today I'll come and unbundle and unravel that lie. That's a lie. I've been around, like I said to you, for more than 3 decades in this industry, and like I said to you, I've provided litigation and legal support to the state in most of the high-profile matters. Currently, as I stand before you, on the national priority list, most of the matters that are there as high-profile matters came through our firm, and we were the ones that were intimately involved before there was even a police person or prosecutor involved. We were the ones gathering the evidence, collecting the intelligence, putting together bundles of evidence forensically, and then bringing it to the attention of the authorities and assisting them by providing legal support in order to bring those that had pillaged the people's resources to justice. It's a thankless job. It's a lonely walk. It's a sacrificial walk. Now, in dealing with the lie, I'm going to call it a lie because that's what it is. And it's a lie told by people that appear to be people of repute. People who stand on your TV screens and people who stand before you telling society what they know is not true. And I say this not with fear, but with the realization that they're going to want to come for me after today, as they have been doing for the last 6 years, almost 7 years. The expectation is that people that have the level of insight and information that we have are supposed to keep quiet, hush, not say anything, take the proceeds that are due you, do your job, and say nothing more. I say, to hell with that, and I calmly and peacefully challenge the highest authorities in this country. Come for me if you will. I'm patiently waiting. I can assure you though, that the activity that you think you will embark upon in attacking me, victimizing me and vilifying me, you will regret it. Not you, I say that to those who ought to hear it. I guarantee you, what I've done over the last 33 years and all the intelligence I've amassed and the evidence I've gained will bury you. Your rot will be exposed, your betrayal of the people will be exposed, and your lies will come to the fore. You see, in combating corruption, we have a body of laws. Bear with me because I may go a little bit technical. And I have to go the technical route or the legal technical route because it is this domain that they use to lie to the average lay person that doesn't have any legal training or doesn't have an understanding of the environment that we operate in. Now, before coming here, Konani's communications has caused a major stir. One of the bodies I belong to is the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. That's the professional body that I've belonged to for more than 20, 25 years. And another organ of state that I've provided legal litigation support and forensic support to for decades are what you now call the Hawks, previously the Commercial Crime Unit and the NPA. I've worked closely with them for decades. The capacity that they claim that they don't have and the forensic expertise that they say they can't do without, my team and I have been providing that to them pro bono. All right? So I talk from a point of having acute access to exactly each and every matter, what has taken place in those matters and what the causes of the failings of those matters are. And from my assessment objectively over the last 3 decades, the foundation then is premised that organs of state that are delegated the authority, the power, and the resources to bring services to the community at various levels. Municipalities, parastatals, constitutional institutions, and other organs as defined by the various statutes are responsible for making sure that you have electricity, water, that your grass verges are cut, that you have safety and security, that there are hospitals and clinics and the like. All these are regulated. It's a highly regulated environment. There are laws and there are regulations, and there's a policy framework that guides how these people must deal with the money that they deduct from that pay slip of yours each month. Our 33 years experience finds that, in particular, you have to have careful regard to 4 areas. And since we're talking about eThekwini in particular, we'll make reference to a municipality as being the one area that you need to have special regard to. And in the municipality, you have to have regard to the officials and the politicians, because the officials actually do work in a municipality in order to guarantee that services are rendered. And the political oversight in that municipality brings to bear the national or provincial political agenda or ideology. There are laws in place that puts an iron curtain up between what the councillors or politically appointed persons can and cannot do, and then laws and regulations that dictate what the officials from the accounting officer down must do. So this is why I point at the one pillar being the municipality split into 2 by the politicians and the officials. When an irregularity is found in a municipality, there's a whole body of laws that will determine what the irregularity is and what must be done when it's found, how it's supposed to be dealt with. I'm going to go through that very briefly. But then it becomes then the responsibility of your reactive organs, being your police, and in particular the Hawks or the DPCI, that must now react when there's irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, unauthorized expenditure, theft, corruptive practices, fraud, racketeering, and the like. But the DPCI or the Hawks, who are the investigators, imbued with the only organ of state, by the way, imbued with the authority and power, search, seize, arrest, and place people before court, then have to work in tandem with the NPA. And the NPA has a separate section of laws, 179 of the Constitution, what then imbues them with delegated power to take prosecutorial decisions, to also put in place systems to work in conjunction with the Hawks, and then bring the perpetrators that steal from the organs of state to book, and for these to be held accountable. Get the picture? So you've got 4 role players. You've got the victim institution, for in this case, the municipality. You then have the reactive institution or organ of state, which would be the Hawks, and you have then the judicial institution, which would be the NPA, would take the matter before the courts and have that matter sorted out. And within the municipality, I told you there are 2 wings. Let's look for a minute at these 4 institutions and how they conduct themselves insofar as what we would call the pillage of state resources is concerned. And then let's ask at the end of this discussion whether these parties are blameless, whether they are innocent, incapacitated, poorly supported victims, or whether they are enablers. Some people are fearful. I told you about the body I belong to, and I told you about my decades of service assisting the NPA and the Hawks, and providing litigation support and presenting evidence as their specialist and sometimes expert witness in matters to help the state to deal with the scourge of corruption. So one would think I have a very close affinity and close relationship with these people, isn't it? One would think they'd be thankful for one who, at no cost and for free, would have rendered the services that I've rendered to them. to provide capacity that they publicly claim they don't have. One would think they'd be grateful, isn't it? They'd be cheering and shouting my praises and say, yeah, there goes one who's sacrificed decades of his life to make sure that we win cases. Isn't it? Not so. Before I came here, and amazingly, an hour and a half or so before I came here, I received 2 letters. One letter from the national head of the Hawks saying to me that he cautions me not to speak about the ongoing criminal case in respect of which I provided litigation support to the National Department. I must be cautioned because this won't be in the interest of justice. And it will be against the code of ethics of the professional body I belong to. Within minutes, I received another letter from the body that I belong to, the ACFE, that says to me, it's very possible that I could breach the code of ethics if I come here tonight and speak to you and investigation. I said to you, I stand before you sacrificially, but I have cognizance of the people that have gone before me and have given their lives and that were imprisoned in order for us to have a constitution that allows us to have freedom of speech. Last I checked, and when I graduated and obtained my law degree, I thought that the Constitution is the bedrock of the law of our land. And I thought that freedom of speech is a cardinal pillar of that, Constitution. So I'm a bit confused as to how it is that a professional body that I belong to for more than 2.5 decades, together with the police, within minutes of each other, send me a letter not to speak tonight. I take that as a gagging order. Fortunately, my legal team advises that, and I too am aware that I haven't come here to discuss any evidence regarding the ongoing case. I will speak about very pressing matters regarding the eThekwini issues that you will make your decisions on after I conclude. But what I say to the ACFE and I say to the national leadership of the Hawks is that it's strange that you can send me a letter not to speak here tonight, but from 2019 to 2025 you've done nothing to protect the witnesses and the whistleblowers in the eThekwini case that have been shot at, that have been victimized, that have been dismissed, that have been vilified. And yet you stand at podiums when you have a camera in front of you and say you are fighting corruption. You say you are sensitive to the whistleblowers in this country that are being sacrificed and slaughtered day after day, week after week, year after year, at pains, while society must look on and believe that indeed you are doing something when in fact you are not. This is why I say they call wrong right and right wrong. If you remove, and I'm not being arrogant, I say this with a complete humility, and I challenge them as well. Remove me and remove my firm from the cases that I have every piece of evidence to confirm. Remove us from them, and I can assure you those cases would never have seen the light of day. Had you removed our expertise, there would be none of these so-called cases. I've watched them, the national leadership, running around from province to province, and I have every recording on every TV snippets from the TV channels where they boasted about these cases and called these cases their successes. Not telling you that people like myself were behind putting all that evidence together, humbly and quietly taking no credit for it, but doing it sacrificially. You not knowing that we're risking our lives for you, for your children, for the future of this country. That's why I call myself a sacrificial lamb. But that's fine, because we didn't want praise and glory. When I got into this of January 1992, I took an oath. I pledged my life to this country and I pledged my service to you all that I will protect your resources. I'll make sure that people that rob you for your resources will be held to account. Now that body or those bodies, in respect of whom I've done the work, seek to gag me. Tellers, they almost know that what I'm going to discuss tonight involves the Zandile Gumede case. So I'm not sure where they get these powers from, psychic powers. But I have no intention of discussing the elements of the case. I'm mindful enough not to do that. But what I will do is take you on a journey to show you why these cases fail and how this very case has been set up to fail in front of your very eyes. Run with me a little bit. Be patient. Be patient. Bear with me on the technical side, and the technical stuff I'll present to you. Because what I'm going to do is give you what the law says, give you what the facts are, and leave you as a jury or as individual judges to make a determination so that it cannot be later said that I accused anybody, so that they delay the continuation of people being held accountable by attacking people like us. Because that is what they do. It's become a modus operandi of people in this country to start repurposing the legal systems and abusing the law, the courts, and the public sector and the authority given to them in the public sector by voters to silence people using modus operandi that I'm going to unpack for you, and you'll see whether this is evidence enough to show that this is what they are doing. And if they come for me, and when they come for me, I will actually be waiting with my legal team. You may have been seeing in the media over the last few years that lots has been said about us. You may not have seen the person. I am the little person, insignificant as I am, about whom they're speaking all these things. Amazingly, none of them want to be giving us an opportunity to be heard. They want to say these things in the media without saying, let's call this person. Let's place him in the dock of a courtroom and let's address the issues which we accuse them of. They understand and they know that will not end well because there is nothing wrong that we've done. Very quickly, IFS, that's my firm, was appointed in 2016, in a tender process between 2016 and 2018. That tender process was dealt with, was initiated by the municipality of Tegwini in order to appoint a panel of forensic firms, 17 of us. I'm even concerned to mention the names of my colleagues that are on that firm, but they're all the reputable firms of the country. International firms together with us, 17 of us, after the entire country was invited to submit bids. It took 2 years for that tender process to finalize. It was finalized in 2018. When it was finalized in 2018 March, IFS received its brief and was instructed then to do an investigation at the DSW component of the municipality. That investigation was not targeted. That investigation was not directed at any individual. That investigation, according to the evidence that I have, will show, was to look at allegations and to assess the veracity of those allegations. It is public knowledge, those that sent me those letters that I'm speaking of now. It's not confidential. It's reported in the media, it's in the indictment. The indictment has been circulated before the whole country. The media has been writing about this from 2019, so if you want to sue me for this, then go ahead, but it's public information. And so that investigation that involves prominent political figures, whom you all know. I compiled the first report, which made the finding, and then subsequent reports, and then was appointed to assist the Hawks and the NPA in bringing those matters to a litigation-ready state, meaning bringing them to the state where they were ready for court prosecution. All processes, asset forfeiture and the like, I was involved in. That is also not confidential. It's in the public space. IFS's name is being brandished left and right as the entity that did the forensic work that culminated in this prosecution for these 21 accused. We also then at the same time were appointed to deal with another matter. That value of that matter was kept at 320 million in the period calculated among the 17 firms. Another engagement was given to us. We ended up finding that at the water and sanitation unit, 1.6 billion was taken from September 2022. So these two cases I'll talk to you about tonight are cases which amount to tens of billion that I've dealt with over the last 4 to 5 years at eThekwini. You've seen much ado about the shortfall of resources and why we need to increase VAT. You've seen much ado about the fact that the fiscus is under strain. Very little about the fact that if you had just followed the recommendations in our reports, followed the law, dealt with what it was that we had presented to you in evidence, then we wouldn't be here. Sue me for that. There's a body of laws. Let's start with the MFMA and then jump very quickly. 61 of the MFMA is one of the provisions that talks to a municipal council and says that an accounting officer, that's the person that they call Mpate Dodop, yeah, accounting officer in terms of the MFMA. That person, city manager, must give the mayor and the council all material facts. He can't mislead them, he can't withhold facts from them, he can't lie to them, and so on and so forth. And the facts that he must disclose to them are any facts and or information that could influence the decisions of that council. He must also, in terms of 61(1)(c), prevent any prejudice to the financial interests of the municipality. These laws are put in place to protect your money, your rates, your taxes, and to hold the persons that are in that leadership position to account. And if they fail these laws, they have broken the law, they must be held to account. 61(2) then talks about that the municipal manager mustn't act in a way that's inconsistent to his duties or office or her duties or office, which are all espoused in the policy, in the statute. They must take, as the accounting officer, every step to ensure that the resources are used effectively and efficiently. The accounting officer must also maintain an effective and efficient system of financial risk management, internal control, and internal audit. The relevance of what I'm talking about there is that this shows you why you have to have mechanisms in place, structures in place as a municipality to deal with corruption. And the structures you put in place must have the capacity to deal with corruption, because these provisions of the MFMA compel you to have it. Then it says that unauthorized irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and losses must be prevented. And if these occur, then disciplinary action must be taken or criminal action must be taken. These are basic statutes. They come from section 195 of the Constitution, which talks about having all government officials to be held accountable. And the same provision in 195 demands that they must act ethically with the highest standard of ethics that Kulani was talking about earlier. Okay? And then the same MFMA in section 32 talks about if this irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure and the like culminates in losses, these losses must be recovered. How? The person who caused the loss must be identified. Reporting must be done on the volume of the quantum of the losses. And the whole processes that go through, I don't want to bore you with, dealing with reporting to Treasury, reporting to your political structures, and then putting in place measures to prevent these losses from reoccurring. There's a case, a seminal case, 2024 case, Bambisa and others versus Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality. In this case, the court ruled just last year that there's no municipality under this country's sun that is allowed to forego or to give anybody a free ride when it is found that they've incurred or caused irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and unauthorized expenditure. How often have you heard people when the Auditor General's report comes out and it cites major irregularities from unauthorized expenditure, irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and you hear people in political office say, that doesn't mean that it's corruption. That is a lie. I'm in this space older than some young people's total years of existence that work within the audit fraternity. So 33 years is a long time. And I've never in my total of 33 years seen force between corruption and fraud and irregular expenditure. I tell you from experience that each time, 99.99% of the time, where you have irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, or unauthorized expenditure, you will find corruption. So fraud and corruption are bedfellows. And for decades, the Auditor General reports have been coming out saying there is irregular expenditure, there's unauthorized expenditure, and the populace keeps quiet and say, but the report didn't say there's corruption. Let me help you. The Auditor General is not authorized to deal with fraud and corruption. The Auditor General are assurance partners, and the public law body, or the law that regulates their profession, only allows them to deal with the auditing for compliance and to give assurance that there's a reasonable apprehension that the books, what is contained in the financial books is what it purports to be. It is the forensic practitioners that, like us, and then the legal processes that we then undertake, that will then assess whether that irregular expenditure indeed amounts to a contravention of rules and laws. And then we follow through with the processes. Therein is the nub of the matter, because that environment requires now human beings who are elected and then deployed. I'm going to use the word deployed because that's the word used most often these days. So the persons deployed in these organs of state then preside over the decision on whether they will obey the laws and rules or not. So it becomes subjective. It becomes subjective because the law is immutable, it doesn't change, it's there, it's just documented. But you have a human being who must make a decision on whether he applies the law or whether he allows the whisperings of influence coming from elsewhere. And I submit that I think that the influence is coming from a political place rather than from adherence and an understanding of what the plain reading of the law is. Now, Section 32 says you must recover that money from the person who caused it, whether that person is a king, queen, accounting officer or councillor, or a lowly employee of the municipality. And the Mabambiswana case in the Supreme Court of Appeal confirmed just last year in 2024, because some political appointees would say, this one I'll let slide. This one is not so bad. They didn't say it's corruption. They just said it's irregular expenditure. This is what the law says, and this is what the courts have found must be done. Relevance? I'm not going to be tempted to give them the joy they want to discuss what I found in the Cometh case. So I'm going to stick to the law and what's wrong with how they are trying to circumvent, bypass, ignore, or fail the very law. Now, every time you find the word must in any statute or any law, it means that the words that follow that are peremptory. When a judge looks at that, he would say, is this left up to the discretion of the person, or is this an obligation on that person to act in accordance with what the words are after the word must? So the legal understanding is that every time you see the word must in a statute, it means must. It doesn't mean maybe. It doesn't mean go and caucus. It doesn't mean go and have an in committee. It means you must. Now, it's amazing how those musts apply to all of us. You must drive below the speed limit. You must pay your rates and taxes. You must submit your tax returns. If you don't, X, Y, and Z. How is it that it is only us lowly, insignificant ones that comply with the musts? But those that's supposed to preside over ensuring that the musts are implemented are the ones that look for every reason why the musts are not complied with. I recall in 1994, I know exactly where I was, tears streaming down my face, looking at Nelson Mandela being ushered in. I remember exactly where I was the first time I stood in front of him, when I looked at his shoes, and his shoes were split on the side and they were stitched, and I could see they were the workings of a shoemaker who had repaired his shoes. And I stood at attention along with the whole platoon with me, 36 of us, looking at him in awe. A man that sacrificed 27 years of his life so that we could be free. Yet his shoes were busted. His shoes, dark brown, polished, were resold and finished by a shoemaker. I'm not talking about what I read in a book. And it struck me that this man, of such stature and substance, doesn't have a new pair of shoes. This immediately told me that this is a man that has sacrificed the entirety of his life and even the luxury of not wearing Gucci shoes so that we could attain the liberties that we have. It was on the back of that I'm telling you that these laws were premised. So these are not apartheid laws. These are laws that are promulgated post-1994. All of them that I will discuss with you. All these laws. Even our constitution. So the fact that those that are compelled to enforce and implement these laws selectively determine whether they must comply with the musts is problematic. Because these musts come from forebears like Mandela, like Tambo, like others that gave great sacrifice for us to be where we are. These are not apartheid laws. These were the laws that were promulgated so that we could have a society that they dreamt of and wrote about in the Freedom Charter. This is why I'm here, not because I'm crazy. This is why I'm prepared to take all of you guys on who seek to try to continue with this game you've been playing for decades with the people of this country, lying to them and pretending that you're bringing them services and you're combating corruption and you are safeguarding their resources when you are not. There's another must. The accounting officer must take all reasonable steps to ensure that disciplinary action and criminal proceedings are instituted against any official of the municipality who allegedly committed an act of financial misconduct. Must. And if they don't do that, Section 173 of the same provision says that that person commits a criminal offense and must be sentenced to a maximum of 5 years imprisonment. The seminal case of Peterson in the Western Cape. The Western Cape, by the way, as much as we may talk, have differing views, is the first province that convicted a municipal manager, Peterson, for contravening the provisions of the MFMA by failing to take action and messed up the SCM systems. He got 5 years. Went on appeal, they reduced it to 3 years, but nevertheless, his conviction was upheld. So that means the Supreme Court of Appeal's view and our legal precedent is that you cannot, as a municipal manager, not comply with these provisions that I've read out to you. Decide that you're going to take action against some and not against others. All right? Now, it continues to say any person in 32 that is responsible for causing irregular expenditure, the municipality must take steps, they must investigate, they must recover, and they must prevent the reoccurrence. How would you prevent the reoccurrence if the person leaves the municipality or if the person is outside of the municipality as a service provider who is then nefariously linked to political people inside the municipality or political people outside in another structure? I'll tell you how. The law provides a solution for that. You would not have locus standi and judicia as a municipality, so then it tells you must initiate criminal proceedings. You must initiate civil proceedings to recover that money. You must have expertise like ourselves who would then assist the municipality in complying with all these provisions, in collating the evidence in the investigation, because you don't expect the municipalities who have admitted that they're not going to go looking around for specialist practitioners who are going to be sitting on their books and on their payroll to do investigations or forensic investigations, as it were, even when there aren't any. So all these laws that they are compelled to comply with, they need specialist services, and they appoint these specialist services. I went on that panel in 2017 to get all the big four firms of the country together with everybody else that had the capacity, and a rigorous testing process was done for 2 years, and in we came and we were appointed. And then fast forward to 2018, we were given missions that were made by a particular whistleblower, and we did our work diligently, which culminated in what you guys see today before court. every aspect of it. I'd love to see people, and I challenge those listening, wherever you are, come and lie and tell us what you did. I don't want to go into the nitty-gritties of the case, but I challenge them to tell us, what have they done, or have we not, as seems to be on the lips of some, performed our work with diligence? In the Constitutional Court, you may remember Glenister, a nobleman, took the president of this country together with the Minister of Police, together with all the other structures, the National Prosecuting Authority, to court. He went right up to the Constitutional Court, and his gripe was the DSO, the scorpions of old, were being disbanded, and he argued it's a political decision, it's not in the interest of the country, and so on and so forth. It was a major fight. He won the fight. After much battling, many millions, great sacrifice, and him being vilified. But that seminal ruling made the following findings. It said that, it confirmed what I said to you earlier, that every organ of state, right, based on international law as well as South African law, must put in place mechanisms within the organs of state to combat corruption. Here's the dichotomy. Further in Glenister, the court opined, the Constitutional Court opined that the leadership of the DPCI, the Hawks, report politically. The leadership of the NPA report politically. And this political reporting to ministries has a possible tainting of the decisions that these bodies would make in their decisions regarding investigations and in their decisions regarding prosecutions. It's not a fable. It's not about the criminal case, whoever's listening. It is about the law. This is what the Constitutional Court judges said. Not me. Sue me for it if you like. The judges in Glenister said that, and it is a fact. You've seen it playing itself out that decisions are taken either to arrest, not to arrest, to investigate, not to investigate, to prosecute or not to prosecute, and I have no personal gripe against anybody from the police or from the NPA. I've assisted you for decades, you know this. But what I have is my legal training, and I stand to it. What I have is my morals and ethics and my commitment to this country. I can't, in good conscience, be trained to do the right thing, and then for expedience and to be popular, depart from doing that thing that the law says I must do. You would rather take my life, sue me, or do whatever the hell you like. This is what the court said in Glenister, and this is the fight that Glenister went through. Now that mechanism is what I told you must be put in every government department, your internal audit unit, your forensic practitioners, so on and so forth. If you don't have those units in place, what are the consequences? 173 of the MFMA, you go to jail as a municipal manager. The public doesn't know these things, and it's hidden from them, and they think that, this is just, you ought to be held accountable and you ought to be criminally charged. The Public Service Anti-Corruption Strategy that's approved by Cabinet in 2020, President signed this, also says each accounting officer of every organization, public organ of state, must establish minimum capacity to investigate allegations of corruption in that organ of state. Why am I harping on the legal framework? I'm harping on it to show you that there are concise bodies of laws. We have enough law, we have enough regulations, we have enough or a broad enough policy framework to deal with corruption. Your problem is the people that preside over the decision on whether to apply these laws or not are the people that are compromised. Highly compromised. These are the people that sold you and I out, and they come before TVs and they come before podiums and audiences and give excuses, lofty excuses, and we've sat for decades keeping quiet, knowing the truth and looking at these excuses they're giving and saying, can you be so bold as to know the truth and come and tell a lie to the citizens? So in summary, the municipality must prevent the recurrence of an irregularity after they found an irregularity. They must report it. They must cause criminal cases to be registered, investigation to be done. They must identify the person that caused it. They must count how much it is. Like I said to you, in our case, it's just over 2 billion rand. How many RDP houses could that have built? How much water would that have allocated? How many services would it have rendered? How many potholes? how much of your rates on a monthly basis would that have attended to? And I told you there are tens of billions of cases outside of these two that I have personally dealt with and I have the receipts on. Now, let's look quickly at what I term the city of capture. Itegu, Teguini. The city of capture. While these people are bound by all these laws I've just explained to you briefly, you see they're even bound by them at pains of being charged, like Peterson, and serving jail time if they don't uphold these laws. By when they find their employees to have stolen the state money to hold them to account and the like. Section 61, 62, 32, and the rest of them, of the MFMA. They're bound to do that, but instead they do the opposite. They sabotage, they victimize. They embark, or they use their office delegated to them, the power given to them, to embark upon schemes that bring the result that Xolani spoke about. He said 2,000 or so people have spoken to him about how they're being victimized, but they say they are fearful. That fear is not coming from nowhere. That fear is brought about by the schemes that are implemented by the officials that's supposed to bring about the application of the rule of law. Section 32(1)(b) of the NPA Act of 1998, sorry. I'm going to talk about the bodies, the four bodies, the DPCI, the NPA, the municipalities, and so on, the laws that regulate what they should do. So that my colleagues that are sending me letters can stop sending me letters thinking I'm going to talk about the evidence that I obtained in the case. But you'll connect the dots, because you'll leave this meeting tonight having a crash course in law, understanding what they are legally obliged to do, and you'll be able to see through the veil that they are not doing what they are supposed to do, and you will be empowered with the statutory provisions to show exactly where they contravene the law, and you will decide what action you wish to take as society. Now, Section 32(1)(b) of the NPA Act loosely empowers the NPA to deal with persons that are doing what we said is being done. People that sabotage ongoing prosecutions, people that interfere with witnesses, hinder prosecutions, try to scupper prosecutions, those people, in terms of Section 32(1)(b), commit a criminal offense and should be charged. The complainant in that matter and the initiation of those charges should emanate from the NPA. Now, you must ask yourself as society, how many times when you've seen witnesses like the lady in the Omotoso case get shot dead, when you've seen other people, and I hope that the families don't take offense to me if I mention names, but there are several whistleblowers that have been unalived, and they are unalived within the proximity of them attending those trials. This law is promulgated to deal exactly with that, but you have people coming on your TV screen saying, hey, we must do something for whistleblowers. There's enough law to tell you what you're supposed to do to protect whistleblowers. Here's one of the acts. It says, NPAU, investigate, because people then are dealing with these witnesses in that way in order to hinder, obstruct, or to scupper the investigation or the prosecution that you are currently busy with. That's why that witness is being intimidated. Then you have the PRECA, Prevention of and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, where witnesses are given money, bribed, induced, or whatever to change their version or not participate in case. There, that law, PRECA, again, empowers you as the state, both the Hawks and the NPA, to deal with it. Then you have the Code of Conduct of the NPA, paragraph D2L, which goes as far as saying, if a prosecutor, while he or she is busy prosecuting a case, becomes aware that another offense is being committed, directly or indirectly linked to this case, he or she as a prosecutor must immediately inform the police in writing, right, so that they can initiate an investigation to do what? To protect this or to attend to this other case that's happening. I'm going somewhere with this, follow me. And I'm talking again just dealing with a case. His or her witnesses are being interfered with, they are being unalived, they are being intimidated, they are being followed, they are being surveilled, they are being fired, transferred, they are being treated, them from assisting in rendering their evidence to the court in order that the accused can be held to account. There's the law. There's the code that regulates what a prosecutor should do. How many of you have heard a prosecutor come into our national discourse from the NPA and say, yes, we've implemented these provisions? Have you ever heard it? But this act existed from 1998. From 1998. This code of conduct has been updated severally. These people are trained and schooled. They ought to know what to do when you've got a case, you've got an accused person, you've got the evidence against this person, but all your witnesses are being interfered with, and it's clear that they're being interfered with the objective or the intent to scupper this case. There's the law that they're supposed to implement. Now you need to ask yourself, are these people acting in your interest if they don't uphold this law as those that's supposed to prosecute on your behalf? Are they upholding the law? Is the reason that corruption cases and state capture cases fail then because you don't have capacity, or you don't have that, or you don't have that? Or is it because you are either wholly incompetent or you are complicit? You refuse to comply with the law for reasons best known to yourself and those that you meet in secret with. Sue me for that. Section 179 of the Constitution says, prosecuting authority has power to institute criminal proceedings on behalf of the state and carry out any necessary functions incidental thereto. The incidental functions are what we call the prosecutorial guided investigation functions, where the prosecutor must work in conjunction with the Hawks and specialist practitioners like ourselves in order to bring a package which will be the finalized evidence and put it before court and say, this is what X, Y, or Z did. Here's the evidence to prove it, and this is how this evidence meets legal muster, so this person should be sent to jail. So when they then become aware, in terms of 32(1)(b) that I read out, that their witnesses are being interfered with, or their case is being scuppered, or that someone is trying politically to sabotage their case, they're supposed to do this. Go back to the Constitution 179 and apply and say, let me now deal with the organized crime which is greater than what is actually taking place. I'll do a favor to those that sent me letters and not talk about the case, but I'll talk about what happened after the case. And I'll let you as the audience see how what happened after the case, in respect of which I am prepared to give every person evidence because it's become a public document. This is disseminated in the public space. I've sent a letter, my legal team has sent a letter to the Executive Council of this city, together with the evidence that supports what I'm going to say to you here. Document by document, line by line, annexure by annexure. So if I'm lying about anything, you go to the page and you read it for yourself. So, they are bound by law to do that. The Hawks, Section 205 of the Constitution, must prevent, combat and investigate crime, protect and secure the inhabitants of the Republic and their property, and uphold and enforce the law. How are you preventing crime when you come to the point of learning that a crime has been committed, people are placed before court for that crime, and others are running around like minions, embarking on activities to scupper and collapse that ongoing case? That's a crime on its own that's been committed after the initial crime. And here's the law that tells you what you must do. So can you guys please, I beg you, ask, what has been done when 22 or so employees of Itegwini that were witnesses against the ongoing court case, the evidence of which I won't speak, when they were dismissed, transferred without request, fired without following due process, threatened, when people like ourselves, on the eve of us coming to testify before court and present the more than 500,000 pages of evidence that we collected, are told, we're terminating your contract. You are not appointed in line with the law. But I was not appointed by myself. And I was not appointed alone. I was appointed with 17 other companies in the same process. What makes the other firms absolved? It takes a special kind of person to believe that that is a rational argument. But I'm dealing with that in the High Court. Now, why I raise that is because it comes in the minds of rational thinkers that in mere weeks before a person is supposed to be presented as an expert of the state to go and present the national priority cases, you have the accounting officer, who I showed you what he must do or she must do in a municipality to uphold governance, uphold the rule of law. When money is lost, recover that money. When people steal that money, hold them to account and the like. Far be it then with that body of law. And mind you, I said, Peterson is your example. If he fails to do that or she fails to do that, they go to jail. That person must have some special driving force at pains of being arrested to say, I don't care what the law says, I will attack the state's main witness. And the witness that recovered or was involved in all the processes of allowing you to comply with the laws. It's unfortunate I can't tell you exactly what I did, because then they will jump on the bandwagon and say, he's now releasing secrets. But the things that we did, I can say this because it's factual, ended up in that case being where it is. It is akin for you to go and appoint a person to safeguard your home, deal with your expensive jewelry and possessions, and when he catches the thief, you come and say to him, naughty boy, why did you catch the thief? I'm firing you. There's no better example. That's what they've done. It is the same. I'm not worried about what they've done to me because I said I'm the sacrificial lamb. What of those more than 20 employees that were people that participated with me, that trusted me, that I worked with for years to assimilate the evidence to build the case? What of them? That were told by their leaders, these are our ethical policies, these are our norms and standards, this is how you must conduct yourself as an employee of the municipality. And when they do that, and they expose corruption, they are then vilified, attacked, vindicated, transferred, dismissed. I can tell you horror stories and I can put the receipts to show you the evidence. This that I'm saying, again, I give another caveat. I will say this throughout this evening's discussion. Got nothing to do with the Zandile Gumede case and the evidence in that case. This is what they've been doing to scupper that case. This case was spoken about in the public media by generals within the police as being in the top echelon of the national priority cases. This case, a racketeering certificate was issued. A racketeering certificate, Mike, ladies and gentlemen, is only issued by the National Director of Public Prosecutions, and is only issued because the stakes are so high for racketeering. The minimum sentence is 30 years. And the complexity of racketeering requires that the highest legal mind in the country must consider the evidence before issuing the certificate. The certificate was issued. So what does it tell you? What's the quality of the evidence that we collected? I will go a little bit further of other things that are in the public domain that they can't sue me for. On the evidence we produced, we already secured judgments through asset forfeiture successfully in the Durban High Court, in respect of which assets, Lamborghinis and Jaguars that we seized and other stuff that we seized, and houses in affluent areas have been forfeited to the state because of the work that we did. Now, how is it that judges sitting in a high court that is dealing with asset forfeiture, using the same evidence, I'm not mentioning what the evidence is, so you can't say I'm releasing confidential information. The same evidence we produced, the same reports, signed by me under oath, empowered those judges to make a finding and take assets worth millions. Those judges found the evidence to be sufficient. Are you not surprised that the same practitioners within this NPA on this side are dealing with the criminal side of things, using the same evidence? Dot, dot, dot. Why? Years ago, the evidence is finalized appeals, everything else is dealt with. Same evidence. They will argue and say to you, those are civil proceedings and these are criminal proceedings, so they're different. Nonsense. Nonsense. The same facts are relevant there. The same laws of evidence are applicable. It just depends on whether you have the wherewithal within this criminal space to treat the same evidence in the way that your colleague treated that evidence in the civil court. That's in the public space. It's been widely publicized that the civil matters have been concluded in respect of this case. You're not asking as the public, how come? You read stories in isolation, you don't connect them, you don't, in assessing that information, start saying, no, we need to hold people to account. It cannot be. This is what regulates the municipality now. Protected Disclosures Act 26, that in particular refers to any disclosure or information regarding the conduct of an employer, an employee of that employer that he or she has reason to believe relates to a criminal offense being committed, okay? Or that is likely to be committed, or that there's a miscarriage of justice that has taken place or is taking place. I'm summarizing in the interest of time. So this piece of law is what's supposed to protect employees that want to blow the whistle. Amazingly, this law protects people like me who are now appointed by the municipality in its amendments, and I then become a protected employee as well according to the Protected Disclosure Act, the PDA. And this law prevents what is referred to as occupational detriments from being visited upon these people. And the law then lists all the occupational detriments. Disciplinary action, dismissal, transfer, unwarranted, all those things fall under those definitions as occupational detriments. And this law then says you are precluded when an employee blows the whistle or exposes crime within a government institution to then now go and expose that employee to those detriments. That's the relevance upon which I bring up the 20-odd employees that were victimized. That's the basis upon which I bring up the termination of people like us, our contract, and they fabricate and try to put together fabricated evidence to support after the fact why it was that you take the action that you take. Regulation 3(1)(a) of the Municipal Regulations on Financial Misconduct says any person must report an allegation of financial misconduct against an accounting officer, blah, blah, blah. The follow-up of that regulation 3(2) says, again another must. The mayor, ... must table the allegation that that person reported before council, where? No later than 7 days. You've watched in the media a fracas going on over the last year and a half or so, where allegation after allegation has been leveled against senior leadership in the eThekwini municipality. You've watched it. You've seen a public spat, and you can't gag me on this, it's in the public media, between the current mayor and the MEC, Buthelezi. And you've watched as the mayor has accused the MEC of descending into the arena and interfering with the affairs of the municipality. But I don't think that the Honorable Mayor had regard to this regulation, because those allegations that were being made by all those people fit the definition of financial misconduct. And it's not me. The regulations that that mayor presides over command him. It says here the mayor. Okay? If the allegation is against the accounting officer, the mayor must table the allegations before the municipal council, full council, no later than 7 days. We're talking law tonight, we're not talking rumors. Why would you as a citizen that pays tax, why would you as a voter, why would you who walked in the footsteps of the giants like Mandela, who gave us, not then claim that liberty and hold to account a person that must comply with the law and say, you are not doing what we elected you to do, and you are not doing what the law compels you and commands you to do. You are doing what you feel like doing for political expediency or for who knows whatever else reason. Have your reason, but here's the law. And a man stands and falls on a law. If we don't obey the law, then we become a society that would be akin to a banana republic. You've seen this in the public discourse. Not once did the mayor say, I will table before the full council these allegations, because they fit allegations of misconduct, financial misconduct. I want to talk about some fallen heroes. Cindy Somakata. Cindy Somakata, you will remember, was slain because he blew the whistle on corruption within organs of state. Instead of them applying Regulation 3, instead of them applying the entire body of laws like I spoke to you about, the MFMA and all the other provisions, treasury regulations, and the whole body of laws, the common law and the like, none of it applied to Makatra. He was gunned down and is not with us today. But I bring up Makatra because there's a nexus between Makatra's slaying and what has become an accepted practice by those in power. The practice of saying, if you don't keep quiet, we'll either kill you, we'll victimize you, we'll slander you, we'll besmirch you, we will gag you, we'll characterize you as the enemy of the people, and we will use all flowery language and methods to do so. Why do I say this? I say this because you must go and look at the witnesses in the Makatra case and what happened to them. Read on the internet to see how those poor witnesses had to approach the Human Rights Council in dire circumstances and fear for their lives, on bended knees, begging after failure of what I read to you earlier. There were laws that were promulgated in 1998 that were accessible to Zulu and those other witnesses of Makatra who were slain. Who failed them, if not the state that denies after eating and wipes its mouth and says, I've done nothing wrong? The record is there, it's in the public domain, read it. The cases are there. Zulu versus Minister of Safety and Security, the DA versus Minister of Police. Those are the decided cases that are there. Human Rights Council or Commission took on the matter, fortunately, because those witnesses couldn't take legal action for themselves. They won the case. The court ruled that those people must be afforded protection. Must. Because the court had regard of the statutory provisions that I've set out here, wherein it is clear that you cannot be a whistleblower, be a witness in grand corruption, risk your life for it, and the ones that survive, that were attacked but survived after Makatra was shot, still wanted to participate and testify. I showed you Section 205 of the Constitution, what the police supposed to do. Did they do that? Did they protect those victims, those witnesses? Did they investigate the root cause of who? By the way, is the murder of Makatra solved? So not only, guys, this is serious. This shows a systemic breakdown. This shows an abuse of power and authority of epic proportions, and yet we sit and we go about like frogs in a boiling pot, thinking we are having a warm jacuzzi bath. You are being cooked. You are being boiled. And it may be true what Kuldani says, that I may not be here in 2 weeks' time, but if that be, I go in peace with a clear conscience, with the truth as my shield, righteousness and justice as my foundation. Who failed Makatra? The law never failed him. The law is there. These people graduate like us. We go to varsity for 5 years or so on, and some of us longer, because you fail and repeat. But nevertheless, they come out on the other end and they are given the positions. And you're given the position and the high salary to be able to recall what you learned in law school and apply it here. When a victim comes to you and says to you, I've been raped, you should know how to cross-examine. I throw my corn, but I call no fouls. You saw it in the news the other day, what the judge said about certain prosecutors who failed to cross-examine an accused person. And we sit quietly and go on and limp on from the next case until it becomes you or someone close to you. Until then society says, let's rise up. I say what Mandela said when I told you in 94, I looked at him with tears streaming down my face. I also remember after looking at his shoes what he said. He said, if this ANC does to you what the apartheid government did to us, then you do to this ANC what we did to the apartheid government. I didn't say that. Those are the words of the icon that I hold in high esteem. There's a changing time and a changing tide in our society as we see it, guys. The Intercape case. An owner of a bus company just wants to run his business and move his buses from one point to another, transporting poor people who can't afford to buy cars. His buses are stoned, mafia take over the route, and lawlessly, because they have the backing of others and because they know that those who are charged with complying these laws, they will not do anything, and because there'll be no consequences, they stone the guy's buses and try to put him out of business. They kill his staff in front of him. Section 205 of the Constitution. Senior people with medals from end to end did nothing. If they claim to have done something, let them show us that they've found the perpetrators and held them to account. They haven't. So there's your reason why, or part of the reasons why, state capture prevails. These are the reasons. You've seen the Deokaran case. Small fish always getting taken down. The minute you take down the big fish, whoo, then there's problems. There are technical issues. The matter must be dragged on for 8 or 9 years. There are issues, there are technical, there's capacity issues. There are so many excuses. Have you ever had regard to the fact that the people making the excuses, when it's not a politically proximate person that's charged, a quick conviction is rendered? How is it that they have capacity when it's nobody, when it's a nobody like you and me? But when it's a politically connected person, like in this national case at Itegwini. Do you know that not a single person has been disciplined for the 2 billion that I had looked at Itegwini? Not one person. Do you know that? No disciplinary inquiry, no dismissal specifically related to the evidence I collected. Not one. No implication of the law to recover the loss. We had to go through, with the asset forfeiture unit, processes to recover as much as could be recovered. Nobody's pension was taken. Nobody was fired. In fact, they were promoted. In fact, others were given increases. In fact, still others, while they attended court, I won't mention their names, did not take a day's leave from 2019 up until 2025. You cannot have that number of leave days if you just go and Google and see all the dates on the court register when that DSW case set. You're an accused person. How do you attend court and still get paid a full salary? That is irregular expenditure. I showed you what the law says should happen. Someone should go to jail for incurring that. Others were promoted. I showed you what happens if you fail to take action against the employees. That is also Peterson. It's jail, 173, 174. I'm hated because all these things I've been bringing out since 2019 and saying, but guys, aren't we overlooking that this is supposed to be done? Shut up. You shouldn't speak. That's been what has been told to me. Leave letters like I've received to gag me. From 2019 to 2025 is almost 7 years, guys. The evidence doesn't change in 7 years. But what has happened in 7 years, been interfered with, people have been discouraged, people have been victimized. Then you must ask, What could be the reason when you are obliged as an organ of state? You have the policing powers. You are not impeded in any way. You have the prosecutorial powers. You went through law school. Why would you not attend to this? When you're thinking about that rhetorical question, I want to throw another document that's in the public domain. Go and look at a judgment that was issued in the regional court by the learned regional magistrate, Garth Davis, in respect of this DSW case from the period 2019 to 2021 after the accused were placed before court. This is a public document, so sue me for talking about a public document. A judgment of court is a public document. In that judgment, you will see the state presented evidence to show that the officials in eThekwini, were interfering with certain witnesses at the highest level, and they were protecting the accused. That's the evidence of who? Of the state. The regional magistrate heard that evidence and heard the rebuttal evidence, had a whole ruling and said, indeed, the evidence that was presented does show that the municipality, eThekwini, contravened all these provisions that I showed you. They failed to hold the employees to account. They failed to implement recovery. They failed to deal with the constitutional accountability requirements. They failed in every aspect. And the court still went and said, they have failed to support the prosecution and the state in holding the accused in that DSW case to account. The court went, here's the coup de grace. The court concluded by saying, not only did they do that, but they appear to have sought to have protected the accused people while victimizing certain witnesses. And you know, the witnesses they were victimizing were among the most senior in the municipality. I never said it. The learned regional magistrate said it, and the evidence informed that. So, how is it when a court, as far back as 2021, 30th or 31st of March, made this finding, and the NPA and the DPSI were in that court and were party to that process? How is it that from 2021 right to 2025, no one from the municipality is arrested for what the court said had been done? The court already said it. They are interfering with these witnesses. The court spoke about, at that time, that one of the co-accused was given 19 million after being out on bail, but the same municipality he stole the 320 million from. And the court frowned on that. I'll have you know that that 19 million in 2021 that the court spoke about was the product of irregular expenditure, was a contravention of the laws that I read out to you, and was supposed to see the officials in the municipality that gave that 19 million arrested. I raised that. I was vilified. That 19 million escalated to 600 million between 2021 and 2023. 2 years. 2 years. 19 million, more than 600 million. I can show you documentary evidence where I raised this issue back then already. I'm not talking about Zandile Gumede case, General. I'm talking about what's in the public space. You will go on YouTube and you will look at July 2023. You will see me and Desen there doing an expose wherein I raised this issue. It's in the public space. I reported it to the Auditor General. I reported it to Treasury. I reported it to the police. The same police who were in the courtroom when the learned regional magistrate handed down the judgment on the 31st of March and said, here, it is actually trying to scupper this case. So it's not a new thing now in 2024 and 2025 when IFS is bringing legal action, and no one's paying for my legal action, by the way, I'd let you know. I still pay my rates and taxes. I still pay, okay, that I'm supposed to pay as a citizen, and then I take my children's money and I fight for you. Okay? So if anyone wants to test my bona fides and see the basis upon which that I do what I do, is the proof of the pudding. Try 6 million in legal fees over the last 3 years for you. Try that. Come ulterior motives after I tell you that I could have taken that 6 million, sent my children to Michael House to go to school and have the best of lives. But I spent it in litigation to do what? To hold to account the people that are giving you the short end of the stick, and if someone doesn't stand up, they will continue to do it. You cannot explain rationally how you are in a courtroom at one epoch in 2021. You know there's political interference on a case. Let's move from the 600 million. It increases from 19 million to 600 million. The 20 odd people that I told you were victimized, they were all victimized in the period from 2023 to 2024, 12 months. Certain witnesses were shot at. Within hours after consulting, they go home and getting prepared to come and testify, they shot at. This is not confidential. You wrote me letters. It's in the public media, you all read about it. That witnesses were being shot at. It's just that people are not connecting all these dots to put it together, to look at it as one issue which reflects the root cause of why these cases and state capture are not appropriately dealt with. I have evidence to show political interference documentary evidence, as far back as 2019. The same court I'm talking about. Consider this evidence. It's in the judgment. It's not a secret. I'm not revealing secrets. If you read the judgment, you will see that the court had regard to the fact that one of the highest political bodies in the municipality that was supposed to be charged with governance started interfering with the reports, interfering with the witnesses, wanting to gag the witnesses, calling the witnesses to talk to them at counsel, to be questioned and cross-examined. The court heard all that evidence. Others at the highest level in the municipality were victimized. I don't want to mention their names, but they're at the highest possible level in the municipality. The court heard that, and the court came to its finding. No one took time to read that judgment in the public. It was filed somewhere, and it was business as usual. Had the laws I read to you earlier been applied, then you would have had a situation where this case would have been finalized, because the people that are scuppering and interfering with the case would have been removed. I call this sabotage. I call this political interference. I call this the root cause of why that DSW case is limping along. I'm not talking about the evidence, I'm giving you facts that are in the public domain. Okay? Now, I'm guarded not to go into the evidence, and that's why you find me skipping certain of the pages, so bear with me. It's too hot for you. I have to put that aside. I'm asking you guys tonight. I don't know how much time I have, Mr. Dube. I'm asking you guys tonight to objectively consider the submission that I'm making, that there can be only two scenarios. They are thus. It is either the persons that's supposed to implement the rule of law are wholly incompetent, or they are complicit. There's no other option. They've come on public platforms and said, we don't have capacity. Why, if you have capacity in experts like ourselves, do you treat your experts by not protecting them when they are attacked by the politicians? What explanation can be offered for that? Because I'm saying to you, I have since 2019 reported the attacks on myself and others. Nothing. Nothing. All my staff, nothing has been done to investigate the actual root cause of the politicians. And this is why to ransom service providers and compel service providers to give them payments quid pro quo. And if you don't, then they won't process your payments, or they'll frustrate you, or they'll involve you in, they'll tangle you up in legal wranglings. You pay for that litigation, you the ratepayer. Who gives the right to a municipal council to decide that they're going to fight a service provider that they owe money, for example? Let's use the latest case, that Poloba construction case that is the court decided on. You owe the service provider money. The service provider initiates legal proceedings against you. The city, individuals in the city take a decision to litigate. The court rules against them. And now you are going to pay an additional 31 million rand in legal fees and wastage because someone personally decided to make a political decision. Those employees that were fired, I want to deal with those employees that were fired from the municipality. I owe it to them because they are your heroes, if you will bear with me for another half an hour or so. They are the people that sacrificed their jobs for you. They are the people that said no more when they were told to shut up, look the other way, and allow the pillage and rape of more and more billions. The budget of eThekwini is estimated at about 70 billion. You'll be shocked if we allowed at some point to show you the documents we have in our possession to show you the extent to which loss is incurred from fraud and corruption from that 70 billion. Take that in the context now of the 28 billion that's been looked for and why VAT has to go up for the whole country by 0.5%. I reason that just by stopping this corruption in one metro, the ones I know of, it's more than 28 billion. It's more than 28 billion. I've just given you small examples because I'm being gagged. This is the modus operandi I'm going to lay out for you, specifically what would happen. And I say the caveat over the next half an hour. None of what I'm telling you relates to the Zandile Gumede case. In fact, this is the evidence in my possession of how senior leadership within this municipality who currently sit there now have tried to scupper and break the prospects of this case succeeding. You would recall in the public domain, widely publicized, the ex-head of the CIU, his home was attacked. Again, I won't mention his name, even though his name is in the public media. In the wee hours of the morning, gunshots rang. Assailants were in his house. Fortunately, he and those that protected him were able to ward them off. Shortly after that, in the public media, evidence that he's given in statements that he's circulated and reports that he's made, he was repeated. And those threats started from 2019 and culminated in June 2023. By June 2023, he received the last death threat, saying if he didn't leave, because he was standing in the way firm, maintaining that consequences would be meted in the DSW case against Cometh and others. He was given an ultimatum. He resigns. I saw it in the papers and I was shocked. He resigns. His last day is the 31st of July, 2023. In comes another person appointed on the 8th of August, 2023. I'm telling you, he has got nothing to do with the confidential memorandum of agreement that I signed with the national head of the Hawks. I reiterate for the umpteenth time. This is all evidence I obtained after, on my own, after being isolated and put aside for reasons known to others somewhere. Now here you have the man who stood as the head of that office, risking his life and that of his family, evading bullets, but still standing and saying this case will proceed. 2 other attacks were launched against him, and eventually he says he can't take it anymore. He resigns. 8 days after his resignation, a new person is brought in. Mysteriously, the person is brought in, but not a single process that regulates the recruitment, selection, and filling of posts is followed. Not one process. And I challenge anybody who says that I'm slandering or I'm lying, I challenge you. Let's go to court so I can produce the documents to show that. No process followed. The person is appointed. For courtesy, I won't mention his name, you'll fill in the dots. That person, within days or hours of his appointment, he starts victimizing the employees of the very unit that's supposed to be investigating this DSW and Cometh case. He forces staff to go and locate the forensic report from the Zandile Cometh case, and those that explain to him that this is a confidential process, the evidence has been given over to the organs of state. He threatened them with dismissal, and he carried out his threat. Within 3 weeks of him being in that seat, after threatening staff, after insisting he wants all the evidence involving the Cometh case, a case that had been running since 2019, he comes there in 2023. What the hell has he to do with the case that's before the High Court after several legs of that case have been decided upon by judges? What does he want to do with it? If not scupper it. This is the problem with our systems. And he was, in inverted commas, deployed. I'm not blaming any political party for his deployment. I'm blaming an individual who claims to have power given to him or her by the Municipal Finance Management Act, who takes an arbitrary position. I'm in possession of a WhatsApp message where the person that employed that person irregularly says, I resisted employing this person, but I had no option because the highest power instructed me, and I'm tired and fearful of being victimized, so I had to appoint this person irregularly. Look what he does when he's appointed. As a wrecking ball, he starts attacking the staff in the same manner that others did when they came to SARS and started calling a particular investigative unit a rogue unit. Isn't it the same playbook? Are you not tired of it, people? Can you not see it as clear as what it is? This is a repeat of a series we've seen before. Is it not the same thing they did to the Scorpions when they started succeeding? They said, this is a rogue unit, these people. Is it not the same thing they did to Cater Manor, the murder and robbery squad there? This is a hit squad. In each of these cases I've mentioned, I challenge you, they're the public domain. The victims of those cases won those cases. The investigative unit at Cato Manor won their cases and disproved the nonsense allegations that they were a hit squad. The SARS rogue unit, Van Lochenberg and others, won their cases. What has happened to those guys' lives at your watch? What has happened to their kids while our kids are going to school? What has happened to their livelihoods while society looked the other way and said it's not our problem? I always use the analogy of a rape of a woman and say you cannot claim to be a human being and a citizen if a woman is being raped and screams for help and you close your windows and say it is outside of my yard and it's not my business. You are guilty of rape. This is what society is doing. You've watched them do it at SARS. You've watched them do it to the Hawks. You've watched them do it to several other investigative arms. Now you're watching them do it to the CIU. Functioning successful unit in eThekwini, which was a unit that was bringing about great success. If it were not so, why do we have these cases before the High Court? Why do we have all these accused? Why do you have all the assets that we've recovered? Billions. I'm not taking glory myself. I said there were 17 firms with me. Those 17 firms worked. The results talk for themselves. In comes a politically appointed person. How is this different to what happened at SARS? The old guard are kicked out under the name of transformation. Someone comes in, he's put there, and he raises hell the minute he comes in there. 3 weeks after he comes, he says to us, you guys, IFS, I've got a problem. Send me your appointment letters. We say, okay, well done. Here it is. He says, send me your timesheets for the work you've did, but I don't like the format. Change it. We change the format, we send it to him. He calls certain individuals that I worked with within the Hawks, and he says to them, I don't believe that these people were appointed correctly. I'm not paying them, and the help that they're giving to you, I'm withdrawing it. You'll see to it how you're going to deal with them on your own. Now, this somewhat links to the case and what I said to you earlier, but I'm not talking about the evidence. I'm talking about how it was that we were appointed. All 17 firms were appointed to do forensic investigation. I showed you the law that regulates how you must deal with it. And then there's the litigation support part or the legal part when the matter goes to court, how we that procured the evidence must testify. You would know the simple rules of law in our country. You can't go and testify on something you don't have personal knowledge on. So your forensic practitioner, who's the expert that traces the money flows and deals with the intelligence and shows all the evidence that implicates the accused, he must go and testify before court. Isn't it? You don't need to have a law degree to know that. So, if I'm the one that procured that, and then the municipality extends my contract and says, thank you for doing a beautiful piece of work. Look, wow, you've got our assets back. You've got these people charged, arrested, placed before court. Now, see the matter through and go through the conviction. Look what happens. SARS style. 3 weeks after he's there, the man already knows that from 2016 to 2018, the tender process that I went through with 17 others, all the big 4 firms in this country, some of which I was a senior executive at. He says, no, you were irregularly appointed. And he says, he's not paying. This is around the 20th of August through to the 4th of September, and I'm due on the 2nd of October with the next remand of the case. 3 weeks before the case is supposed to start again. Big case, one of the biggest cases in the country. I showed you the law that says the municipality must take consequence management, must report the matter criminally, must bring about measures to prevent the recurrence. The municipality, I raised the question earlier, doesn't have the locus standi, the capacity to bring about measures to prevent the recurrence. That measure is in the criminal courts where the judge can deter other like-minded public officials from raping the state. So the municipality must then, in terms of section 41 of the Constitution, work in collaboration with the DPC. Go and read section 41. It says when organs of the state have a common objective, they must collaborate their efforts and work together towards the common objective. This is what was done. Agreement is then reached between municipality, IFS, as the litigation support practitioners and forensic specialists, and the police to say, these organs of state need expert services. They have the same objective. The municipality will continue because we, the victim, we lost 2 billion. We are going to, and you, our person that we appointed, has found the evidence, and we need him to continue assisting you so that we can get our money back and we can convict these people and prevent others from doing the same thing. Take our, we'll continue to pay him, he'll help you, pro bono. The same municipality then changes its mind when this guy comes in a couple of days later and says, no, my predecessors were wrong. You are no longer to assist the police. What is he doing? He is now dislodging a process that our national leaders of the NPA, our president, Our leaders within the Hawks came and said to you on TV, and I'll play the clips for you, we need forensic capacity. This is why state capture cases from the Zondo Commission are going slow. This is why we can't deal with complex organized crime. Our staff needs training. We need to bring the private sector in and let them. Here we are. We were legally appointed to do that. When we are interfered with and removed from continuing to assist you and go and stand before court and tell what we know, Section 32, Section 205, and all the earlier laws that I read to you are supposed to kick in, isn't it? Where you're supposed to jump and say, yay, our witness is being interfered with, and our expert witness at the least, and no least. This is going to have an impact on the case. Let us do what we were trained to do in law school, and let us attend to this. Did they do it? A rhetorical question. You may also have read in the papers, with much frustration, the way the matter is plodding along. I'll leave that to your imagination. But ask yourself, what would you have done had you appointed a specialist practitioner with expertise that you don't have and you admit you don't have in public? That person compiles damning evidence for you that if it were not so, would have been challenged by now because discovery is made a good 5 years ago. So if the reports we had compiled were nonsense, see by now, would have been placed before court and told your reports are rubbish. The same reports I told you had secured judgments in other courts. Same evidence. But here, we are excluded by this person appointed after the death threats are received from erstwhile head, in being vilified. We are precluded from participation. Public then asks themselves, is this not a political witch hunt? And then you start seeing murmurings in the media. I want to deal with the one murmuring I saw in the newspaper where people have jumped and made allegations about that same allegation, we were unlawfully appointed. We were not. We were not. We have every piece of paper. I think this makes them scared. That shows them the processes that were followed in how we were appointed. The truth is a scary thing. But to show now after them scuppering us and keeping us out of the case, on they go ex post facto to try to appoint a service provider, another forensic practitioner, to justify their decision that they'd already taken to terminate our contract. When this started in July 2023, or before it even happened, I did an expose on ENCA saying that this was going to happen, and that we had the intelligence to indicate that this is what was going to happen. One political party stood up and said, hey, this is nonsense, we can see it for what it is. These people are trying to scupper this investigation. 1 out of 17 service providers, why? They have every SCM protocol. But here's the interesting, the service provider that they appoint to investigate us, the paperwork that they use to appoint the service provider shows. Listen to this nonsense. They contradict themselves so damningly in their papers. They admit that the 17 companies that were appointed in 2018 are still in force, 23, because the powers in the municipality had extended those contracts, which is exactly what we've been saying all along. We've got the paperwork to prove it, that the highest authority from city managers, 2 BAC committees, employees whose names we have, employee numbers, everything, with the papers. And the rationale was, you've investigated cases, people are before court, you have 2 choices. You let those people go free and return their assets, or you extend the contract of these witnesses that must testify in this trial. Which would you prefer as the ratepayer? And that was what was legally done. The extensions took place, And the fact that the extensions took place, they premised the investigation against us that you're seeing in the papers where they're saying there's a report showing that this company that investigated this case was appointed irregularly. So now no law can emanate from unlawfulness. Because the appointment was unlawful, that would mean the forensic report that they produce is equally inadmissible. They want you to believe that. Let me show you why that is utter nonsense. If that were true, then the unlawful manner in which that this service provider was appointed to make that point is supported by the evidence I produce, then any allegation they make against me equally can have no legal standing, isn't it? Let me show you. So they go and contrive and get a service provider that has 2 months or 2 cases that he's done in his whole life. 2. I didn't say that, his own website shows it. This company was registered in 2020. The director became a member of that company 3 months before he was invited to submit a quote to come and investigate my firm, who is saving the municipality billions. But here's the other factor. In their papers, the supply chain management papers, they admit that the 17 companies, including my company, were still extended. But they couldn't use another company from the 16, excluding me, because the whole panel was compromised according to them. There's never been an investigation against any of those companies, and I'm sure if they're listening to this stream, they will be shocked to know that as reputable companies, if I show any of you of the 16, the nonsense they spoke about you, they said you are compromised. They said you are appointed irregularly. They said you are fraudsters. All 17 they alleged, and said they have to appoint this one because the 17 are corrupt. All. No investigation was done. They forgot that they didn't do an investigation to prove that these others, reputable names, I'm talking about big 4 international firms, they're saying they're all corrupt. Don't investigate them. They appoint this one with 3 months as a director and 2 cases in his whole life. The minimum requirement for all 17 of us to have met the standard to have been appointed to do work for the municipalities, that we had to show minimum of 5 years experience and a minimum of a limited number of references of work you've done for the state. I'm doing this for 33 years. I'm a veteran. I have other members in my firm that have longer service than me. I'm the baby in the firm. Yes, I'm the leader, but I'm the baby. So I have veterans that come from all the big 4 firms internationally that have joined me. We outstrip the threshold of the minimum requirement. This 2-month-old baby comes and writes a report and says, that firm that did the report of this DSW case, he disregards the number of degrees I have. He disregards my academic qualification and my experience. His report, I've not done work. I was paid millions for nothing. I produce an index of the work. Not an index, the index, which is the front page showing what the rest of the contents are. The index for the DSW case of the evidence I produced is 401 pages, the index. And line by line, I itemize each document, what the document is, each piece of evidence, and the number of pages it is. I can show you that. It's a public record, discovery given to the defense. It's in the court file. I produced no less than 50 reports in progress of the other work I was doing. I'm talking about millions and millions of lines of evidence. The 2-month-old baby, to try to let people walk scot-free, says, I didn't do work. Society keeps quiet and doesn't say, smell a similarity of what was done in previous organs of state. Are you going to wait until the end result happens before we rise up and say, not in our name? Because we watched as SARS fell, and they gutted it and they pillaged it. And only when the court exonerated Van Lochenberg and that so-called rogue unit, then we got up and said, yes, they were wrong. Okay? I'm appealing to you guys today. in conclusion, the averment is that there's every other reason as to why they can't succeed in these cases. Our evidence is to the contrary. Our evidence is that they deliberately and intentionally, as a municipality, fail you, put in place measures to ensure that politically elite people don't get held to account. My last submission goes to a piece of evidence that I have which shows that after this person contradicted himself in this report, which we tear to shreds, myself and my legal team, and show line by line and page by page that he ignored evidence that was in front of him that exonerated us. At least in one or two places, he then admits and exonerates us and says these allegations are not supported by fact and can't be supported by fact. But listen to this. When he makes these submissions, a decision is made that a meeting will be held at the Exco among the highest decision makers in the municipality, which is the council. The council that must consider Regulation 3, that must consider governance, and must consider the best interests of the municipality. At the current place where we stand, we would think, finalize that case, convict these people, and stop the pillage of billions that are flowing out. But they say, no, we want to hear this evidence that alleges that our expert was not properly appointed. Nevertheless, they hear it. They don't produce a report. No report. No piece of paper, and I've got the evidence to show it. The guy comes, verbally stands up to council and says, hey, it's alleged that those employees and this service provider are conflicted, blah, blah, and blue. He's quoting from a report to allege that the report says thus. But when you read the report says we've done a diligent search. We've looked to see if there's any conflict of interest and could find none. Do you realize how damning that is? That means the council sat and consumed false information, made a decision to fire employees, made a decision to continue to vilify us and want to blacklist us and want to do all things against us, when in fact the person that spoke to them lied and spoke contrary to the very report, as rubbish as it was. That means they were misrepresented too. That means that their resolution is defective. But we must ask yourself, was it wittingly or was it by dereliction? Because the evidence shows that they never had even a report before them. They had not a piece of paper before them, not a single piece. How do you make a decision on the lives of 20 witnesses, which are your employees, that are going to deal with the scourge of corruption which you're supposed to deal with? And your expert service provider, and you have not had sight, nor of the report, nor the evidence that the persons implicated put up to say, here's the rebuttal evidence. So now I conclude by saying this. I've given you a bit of information to show you the involvement or the law, what the law says, an indication broadly insofar as what ought to have taken place, what has not taken place. I've shown you how people have been victimized. I've shown you how Bell Pottinger and how SARS Rogue Unit and the like tactics have been applied. And I've shown you how your EXCO, who's supposed to have at that point stopped and said, no, this report you're talking about or this allegation you're talking about, isn't this involving our ex-mayor? Shouldn't we look at this more closely? Shouldn't we apply due diligence and see that the rules of natural justice have been applied, that the evidence... I conclude, guys, by saying, with your limited means and your limited power, it's not all doom and gloom. The solutions are there within the law. The solutions are there within civil society. The solutions are there within each and every small individual to come together in unity to deal with this scourge. That's the only way it's going to be dealt with. Okay? Glenister only survived in the the battles that he dealt with, because he had what we call in law amicus curiae. He had people coming alongside him and informing the court as friends of the court to say, not on our watch, we won't stand for this. We support that this is wrong, it can't continue. And if you can't get involved legally, then get involved as civil society and get involved as active citizens. But don't let this continue on your watch. I thank you.
Left us in trauma. Can't move.
I think you can stand there because we are going to have about another 20 minutes to answer questions. Yes. In an essence, just let us be straight, let us not be ambiguous. What I deduct from your presentation is the fact that there is a serious effort to destroy the case, the DSW case. And the effort is from three spheres that is supposed to protect our society. That is the executive in the municipality, the Hawks, as well as the SAPS, let me put it in that way. Do I read correctly?
Can I borrow your mic? I don't want you to.
I'm trying to switch off this one. Okay.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, Polani. And I also don't want you to put words in mine. I gave you information and I asked you to make up your mind. I don't want it said tomorrow that I had said that these bodies. The evidence is open for citizens to look at it and assess it and say, have these people clothed themselves in glory? And if I am then challenged, I'll be forced to produce the documents to show what my actual view is and what the evidence says. But your audience must say, whether from what I've told you are facts, that these bodies that you raised, have they done the right thing from 2019 to now?
According to you, have they done what they are supposed to do?
The evidence shows whether they did or didn't, Mr. Dube.
Okay. And another one, do you think that is there a way that the current leadership in that municipality, mayor, the city manager, the executive, do have a political will or the moral and ethic will to stop the corruption in that municipality, or they are part of a problem in this municipality?
If you listen to what I said, my answer will have to be a flat no. And the no is premised on the evidence that shows that no consequence management has been visited from 2019 to 2025. You've had a mayor, it's public news, that when the manager that was implicated in this matter, whose name I won't mention because he's still under trial, along with the other accused persons, when that city manager was ejected from the municipality when his bail conditions failed, an acting municipal manager came in. The newspapers, the media shows what happened to that municipal manager when he went to testify in the bail hearing of the current municipal manager that's charged. Political councillors said he's ambitious. Political councillors attacked him and vilified him and shot down his continued employment as the acting municipal manager. until the current municipal manager was appointed. And all councillors clapped hands. You read between the lines, why would they then be happy when they were unhappy with the one that testified against the erstwhile mayor and erstwhile municipal manager? And then he's there for a short while acting. The minute he finished testifying, the very next day, read the papers, they attacked him. He was removed. And this current municipal manager that was placed there, go and read the public media to see how many allegations have been leveled against him which implicate him in trying to scupper this case and also implicate him directly and indirectly in serious allegations of irregularity, which demand the implementation of Regulation 3 of the Financial Misconduct Regulations, which by now should have been a mile high, presented to the full council. And that council should contain the opposition as well as the current ruling party together. That's what the law says. I'm not saying it. So if they haven't done that, sir, I'm only here to say to you, based on the law and their conduct, then they don't have the political will or the legal will to deal with the scourge of corruption. In fact, their apathy then makes them liable, based on publicly available information, for the citizenry to conclude that they are protecting this current city manager. Because the question would be, why would you not implement your own regulations? Table before the full council all these allegations that whistleblowers and citizens are bringing against this man, serious allegations of abusing service providers, of corruption, of maltreating staff, of using the municipality in a way that ought not to have been done, as I read out to you there. No political will, no legal will.
Okay. Before the last one, as a ratepayer and a citizen of this municipality, do you think that man who is our municipality manager, is Musampele, is known, is there a need for him to still be in that municipality?
A need? No. Your question is there a need. When we vote, do we vote to need people in political office that will disobey the laws that would benefit the citizens and would bring true transformation and emancipation from lack of resources that our people have suffered from? Do we vote to bring persons in that would be mired in allegations and persons that would not uphold the law? That should be the answer to your question, sir. It's a rhetorical answer.
Okay. The last one. Looking at the council, we know is a GNU. We are governed by a kind of sort, not the GNU in this province, it's a coalition. Is the EFF, is the IFP, is the NFP, and the ANC, and the DA, yes, in the municipality. Yes. Wow.
Yes.
And so, meaning that we've been betrayed by these political parties because they have all the powers to change lots of things in that municipality. And so, are you telling me that the DA, the ANC, the IFP is the same thing when it comes to protecting corruption?
I will answer this way, Olani, and the audience. I read to you the laws that regulate what these political powers are supposed to do. I've practically lectured tonight, as I would do when I'm training other people. You ask yourself, did any of the political parties, before they all come and say, I've besmirched them, the simple question is, ask yourself if any of these political parties, and I can name them, you've named them, have they, since they had come into power, taken a serious look at what the laws in the municipality say? I referred you to when the current mayor came into being, and there were no less than 9 allegations published in the media. 9 serious allegations of financial misconduct, heavy abuse against the leadership of the municipality. What did all these parties do collectively? Because they sit in council together. What did they do? Did they apply Regulation 3? Did they uphold the provisions of the Municipal Finance Management Act? Did they uphold the Municipal Systems Act? Did any of them say, let us look at all the complaints, let us look at the billions that have been given to outside parties by ways of fraud, corruption, and racketeering? Let us initiate investigations. They didn't. The current state of affairs is that the CIIU, that was the only independent unit that was holding people to account, has been gutted. They're not gutted in oblivion to the current leaders in the municipality, be they opposition or be they the ANC. So I don't blame any one political party. I go back to the law that regulates them and say all of them are culpable, and all of them ought to have looked around them to see. You having the CIU gutted, you having employees being vilified, you having whistleblower reports coming from every corner of the municipality, which would show you that the employees, the sentiments of the employees are that they are sick and tired. They have no avenue to voice their knowledge of the fraud and corruption, but by anonymously making information known. Are you a responsible group of leaders, irrespective of the political party you come from, if you disregard those voices? Are you a responsible political party, irrespective of the color of your branding? If you then disregard the impact of that, because at the end of the day, if I'm talking about a couple of billion here and a couple of billion there and a couple of billion there, how do you justifiably, as the council, preside over the council as if nothing is wrong?
The last one. What is the option of the ratepayers or the citizen of this municipality? What options or what option do we have to rectify the current situation?
There are several options. Let me give you mine that I think is a quick one. The ratepayers and the citizens must come together in a class action. And we must get together and we must bring a legal challenge, compelling, which in law is called a mandamus. We must bring a court application, select a law firm, appoint that law firm to represent the citizens of this country, and bring a mandamus, which is an interdict, a positive interdict, compelling the state to do what the law requires them to do and that they refuse or fail to do. A mandamus. That mandamus must be designed to compel this municipality to do a few things. One, comply with Section 195 of the Constitution and the provisions of the MFMA and hold to account every person who has pillaged and raped the purse of the municipality. And that investigation must be dealt with independently. Regulations of misconduct must be applied. Regulation 3 in particular. They must be compelled. The Intercape case, Olani, is a seminal case that shows, the judge in that case said, it's a travesty that government officials must be hauled before court and compelled to do what they ordinarily ought to do. And when he said this, he was referring to the Minister of Police and he was referring to certain commissioners of police because they had flatly refused to investigate what the court termed as racketeering against Intercape. And Intercape secured a mandamus, compelling the Minister of Police and those commissioners to launch investigations into the root cause of the racketeering on Intercape. So my recommendation number one would be, there's enough law to deal with irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, corruptive practices, and so on and so forth. You'll wait and they'll in decades, they'll chase you to the Auditor General, they'll chase you to the Public Protector, they'll send you left and right and you'll get no results. The only remaining institution that I still have faith in this country are our courts. So you get together, even if you put your 10 rand and another puts 50 rand and another puts 100 rand, and you get a firm that will go and get an order of court compelling them to do what the law says they must do. that they must investigate and take consequence management against those in respect of whom evidence exists. And then 2, you invite society and say, bring as much information as you have to a central point. This is our legal team. You will be protected. Deliver the information. And you allow that legal team to sift through that information and deal with it in the appropriate way in compelling these people to investigate it. This is what they don't want to do, and this is why corruption won't end.
Okay, you can stand. I'll take 3 questions this side and 3 questions this side, and then you'll conclude. I'll count 1. Okay, yes. You are from the same political party. Sorry about that. Is there anyone else here? Can you come to the front when you ask your question? We have only one person this side, ne? Or we are scared? Okay, yes, Babu Temp, you are the second one. Edwin, Gitela, okay, yes. On this side is 1, 2. Is there anyone else this side? No, yes, Is there anyone else? So only 2 this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. Okay, ngicela nize ngaphambili. And then we'll conclude with this side. Put ngicela nize ngaphambili so that you can ask your question. No preamble, no presentation. There was only one person who was doing a presentation. Ne? For us, is a question.
Oh. Greetings, everyone. And we thank you, my brother. I know your work personally of the wonderful things that you've been doing, and we know who you are. One of the important things, I'm sorry to just make a statement before, about this sitting here, it is for us to do what is a solution. I can't lie to you. My own question that I will ask my brother relates to Musampele, who's the city manager. It's been 5 years, 4 months. He's been dodging my payments. And the way he dodges the payments are obvious. Now, what I want to highlight that happens in that municipality, he runs that municipality as if it is own house. When I say own house, I mean own house. I have gathered so much evidence in terms of what one has done. And I've gathered so much evidence. What makes it worse for me, it's not similar to you. Because I was working appointed by the former city manager. Every appointment of me was done properly with no problem. When he came in 2021, the first person he phoned was me. And said, Chief, you know me, I was COO. You used my offices and this thing. Continue because I see your contract. Then I continued. I did work for him. I've got proof here that I submitted as my discovery affidavit at the, with my attorneys. And what is shocking is that he phones me 23:59, midnight. He says, I need urgent help because I know you are trained in terms of information and analysis of what you are doing. Then from that midnight, he makes me to wake up my staff that is in different places. And then an hour later, I sent a WhatsApp. I said to him, it's done. Then post that, he said, this day, he's not paid me up until now. In addition of what the bill is looking like. Before that, their systems are installed that are still running at the municipality till this day. You might have seen the newspaper where on the front page it was said, I'm owed almost $500 million by the very same municipality. The reason why I came here, people I cannot put their names here, send me messages. I said, they're talking about the problem you're having. Go there. Maybe you'll hear. That's why I came and said, I've got to hear this. And you've been seeing what is happening in the media. Everyone is complaining. He said, have you heard? People are complaining left, right, and center. Wait, that is not enough. I went to his boss, Umeya, Ukaba. I'm sorry to say this. He did nothing. One of actually SA's members, who's a councillor, rose a question when the AG was there. And then he said, I need to understand consequence management because I've seen all records of my company being paid. Why is it not being paid further on to this? It became a big drama. I think it's Mwango, is her name. And then post that, I therefore asked them a simple question. I said, based on the things that you are required to do in order to do payments, you are even worse because you are a manager. You came to add services. So people who are at the municipality, what are they saying? Because councillors, when they sit, they should say, no, this is not up. How can this man not pay this man? And then he comes in, in power. While he's in power, he will just list his own things that he wants. He continued to get them. That was sweeping his office, sweeping his cars, monitoring phones. I went to even his wife. I know his wife is Daphne. I had to also go to Daphne and make sure that all these things that he needed are done. Until this very day, not one kobo. When I say kobo, 1 cent was paid to me. And I got frustrated. If I can tell you about the legal bill, my attorneys can tell you. I had a team of advocates that sat with me and said, your case is valid. The only thing that you need in this country is that you need a union of people who will come together and say enough is enough. So my message to the councillors of eThekwini, I'm not against you, Bafethu. I'm sorry if I sound like, please remove this man. And Mayor Kaba blocked me. I must say this. After calling him because he reports to Kaba, deal with this man. Kaba blocked me. As a mayor, I'm sorry to say, even if he can hate me, he's one of the most useless mayors I know. I work in provincial government. Things that are done in provincial government, I solve them. National government, they depend on me. There are people I will not mention here. When the state was looking for them, my company found them. From the task force and various sectors of the media, not media, sorry, of the government. They come and ask for my services. We work in 8 provinces. In those 8 provinces, everywhere I've got even letters of people saying thank you, CFO saying thank you because of the solutions we've brought. So Musampele is the only person, because I said with the people from the municipality, I said, why is it not paying me? He said, I'm telling you now, if you are not close to him or you are doing pity part with him, he's not going to pay you. Why does this man have to be like this? So my brother, for standing up here, we need to give you a hand clap. Because people, Basaba, they are very scared. And I don't know why do we allow this Musampele character to take so much glory. It gets no glory from me. So I'm hoping that councillors will finally understand. I've written to EXCO, I wrote to the AG. This is what I want to say before I sit down. When I wrote to the AG, the Auditor General, Utakan Maluleka, Gampalela. Then when she answers me, she says, okay, I had to subpoena things, but I'm not fighting the auditor. They did nothing wrong. Then, on the answer I got, they said there is no irregular report from the past city manager and the current city manager about your company. So as the Auditor General stopping you from being paid, I took the letter and I attached it in my discovery affidavit that comes from the Auditor General, who says, no, by law, if they were irregular, they know within 14 days they're supposed to send something and say there's something irregular. There was nothing that was written that is irregular about my company and my service. So auditor said, as far as we know, there is nothing. From city manager to the current city manager. Right now, what I'm hoping that will happen, I'm a councillor, will stand up. It's enough. This man has got to go. I can't lie to you. He needs, or this eThekwini needs. We need to stand up and say, nonsense is nonsense. We have got a lot, thousands of guards everywhere working successful things that we have done in terms of investigations. But we have never gotten a treatment whereby a man feels that he owns. He thinks that PES as eThekwini, it is home bank balance. And we must tell him, Musa, it's enough. And people have been complaining, how shame, Musa? I can't say shame. I can't say shame. We need our money, Musa. Are you going to pay my money? And I told him the last conversation we had, I said, I've got proof. The proof vilifies what I have. What made it a cherry on top when we got these things is that when the auditor wrote, he said, there is no record from the former manager to the current manager where you were reported as an irregular service provider. As I speak to you now, my invoice still runs. Every month it runs. Every month it runs. It's my claim. And I sent a letter last year I said, give me a permission to remove things that I placed there. The same Musa who doesn't care makes you as taxpayers to have increments on monies that you pay because he doesn't care who pays because it's not coming from his bill. So my advice is that please, this character must be very much focused on. Let his house be sold, let his pension be taken, so that he can realize what he's doing is wrong. I'm being honest. Things we've gone through. Once we start mentioning Etegwin, we pray every time in my house. Once you say Etegwin, you see my kids watching me like this. What says cartel? No, they don't say it. It's enough. And I want to thank this brother here for making this, because to make this, I can't mention it here because I respect. But indoor. Yes, half of the things that all the things he has spoken, they will not speak about it. They will speak about his shirt. They will speak about how he was speaking. My brother here was like, you saw how. Don't come to criticize. Look at what is the core. The core that we have as a problem in Etegwin is that Mosampe. 2, all his comrades that he's with there, even people that are working for him are scared. I get a lot of calls saying, do something, do something. So I came here to say, thank you, my brothers, for what you have done. And my brother, I support things that are done, but I'm saying I'm number 1 to those that will join to say, let us do something. I mean it. Let us do something. I'm a president of Mzansi Business Forum as well. Let us do something. If we must make a march, let's make a march. Don't even go there. I saw the president of the country. When he came, I said, President, why are you making us not being paid? Tell these people to pay us. Because he knows the work I do. The parameters of the work that you are doing, President can't be involved. Who must we complain to? If he says, President, I've got a WhatsApp from Umoma Gwen. It's why President can't be involved. Because not the President, I'm being honest. Imagine the millions that he has taken, things we had to sell, the nonsense that we had to go through just because of that one man. Oh, I know, guys. Please. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Can we be short? No. Can we be short now?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Mina, ngizokhuluma isiZulu interchangeably with English. I think the greatest disservice to the city is not that we are looking at things that are done wrong and we keep quiet, but the greatest disservice was the fact that when the city manager was appointed, he was appointed irregularly and illegally. And in fact, there is a case that is before court in Peter Marosberg last year. When we went to court to check what the process is, because they were supposed to have replied to the motion papers that we filed, but the case itself was gone. It disappeared. Meaning that we are actually dealing with thugs, real thugs. The Solbet matter, the matter irregular expenditure, that's one matter that we actually put as one of the matters that we refer to as an irregular expenditure. So is the Uqabashe, Usotobe. There are many other matters, not only that, even the appointment of Mageu as an irregular appointment, even her actual dealings with Debenoise, whatever you are actually talking about, are things that are still happening there. It didn't actually end at that time when there was a trial at the High Court. It continued. In fact, Umake was appointed as a head. He's a Section 204 witness. A Section 204 witness is a criminal. Is a criminal, it's just a state witness. And so we are taking to court because the mayor and everybody else are failing to listen to us. We are saying that a city manager was appointed illegally, and so his appointment needs to be set aside. So is Mageu. That's why we have to start. Thanks.
You have not introduced yourself. Sorry. From?
Elatinus.
All right. It's just because I'm hearing you saying you are Are you representing an organization or?
No. I mean, I'm actually taking the matter on my own.
Okay, no, thanks
Yeah.
a lot.
That's my.
Sure.
Okay.
What I wanted to say, guys, is from the two submissions that were made, I echo my sentiments earlier. It seems that there's a common collective problem. There's one individual who has created a racketeering enterprise, from what I see legally. And the racketeering enterprise is the actual municipality. And it appears from the information that we're receiving that the municipality, the structures within the municipality have indeed been captured by this person. This person has taken undue control over them and repurposed finance, repurposed the legal department, repurposed SEM, repurposed HR, and the various other structures, which, if you look at it from the legal definition, he then creates his own organizational structure according to information from whistleblowers, and then thereby takes control of the decisions that those persons will take. And this is why individuals will start experiencing issues like non-payment, issues like legal challenges, issues like rejection of their bids, and several other issues. Those issues are only symptoms. They are symptoms. As difficult as it is, Kabashe, what you're going through, it is a symptom of the bigger problem, which is the complete capture of eThekwini and the repurposing of the power vested in a person that's supposed to be used for legal purposes, and that person then treating the municipality as if it was ubukhosi bakhe. You understand? Now, for those that don't speak isiZulu, that's an autocracy, his kingdom. It's only a king that rules autocratically. I don't remember municipality being given kingly powers. So that's the root cause of the problem. And again, it comes to my solution. My solution is collective legal action. If this were done in any company where allegations of this nature were brought against the CEO from all fronts, and the board heard these complaints, and the board didn't take action to look into the veracity. You must remember, an investigation is not a finding of guilt. The law doesn't require for a person, Section 35 of the Constitution, to be made guilty before a proper investigation and proper evidence is led. All that we are asking for is investigate what everybody is saying about this particular city manager and those that work with him. How can it be that you won't apply the minimum requirement in law? Investigate the veracity of the complaints. If they exonerate him, so be it. But where evidence is put, then you are bound to take action. Now, which law-abiding council, opposition or main party or whatever, which leadership will fail that basic right? So that would mean, if that would be to apply to every citizen, you cannot walk into a police station and say, my neighbor assaulted me. They will determine, okay, we'll see if we'll investigate against you. We don't feel like it. That's what's happening with the municipality. So my earlier recommendation is collective legal action.
Sorry. No manifesto, ne? No looking.
I'll definitely try not to. Greetings to everybody. My name is Uhalalisani Ndlovu. I am the provincial campaign manager for Action SA, but I also do happen to be a councillor in Guaduza municipality. No, I do not have the 37 million with me. I played no part in that. No, our municipality has become notorious for a recent theft and loss of about to the tune of 37 million. Now, this brings me to the setting that we're in today, because it's not just an eThekwini problem. It's a widespread national problem across most, if not all, municipalities. Local municipalities have now become the center of criminal rings that centralize power in order to loot public funds. Now, in order for us to even begin to rectify these problems, either from the administration or from within the political leg of council, we're going to need civil society such as yourselves to come to the party. We're going to need ratepayers to come to the party, because society is going to need an all-of-society approach for us to even begin to fix these matters. Now, the problem that we find is you've got UMM at the forefront of the administration, but they've collectively created a clique of executive directors and managers that cannot then hold each other accountable. Now, consequent management within a local government context should initially start with the MM. However, Tina, as politicians, we do have the right to hold them to account and to play oversight. Now, that's why I'm saying, Guti, if these two legs do not coexist, it becomes a problem, because there are ample legal frameworks that are at our disposal. Now, for instance, there's an MFMA perspective on consequent management. USALGA, which guides local government, is quite clear in their frameworks in terms of how to institute consequent management. But you never find anybody being charged. You never find anybody being brought to book, because it's a collective. And that collective, amiable, is to loot. And why I'm saying in any situation where the administration and the political leg are captured, it is doom and gloom for that municipality, because the very same politicians that are supposed to hold the administration accountable will then find themselves receiving either brown envelopes under, under the table, or they will form part of these cliques. And who's then holding the ratepayers' interests to their benefit, or who's the one that's protecting ratepayers' interests? So that's why I'm saying I don't have a question, it's just a comment. And nami ukuzobonga kunina to open platforms such like these, because as politicians we go out into communities and politicians and councils don't want to do their work. But unfortunately, as I said, it's going to take an all-of-society approach. We can only do so much without the buy-in of our ratepayers, without the buy-in of communities. Because if there's one thing that's important that you mentioned today, it is the rule of law. And without that, we are going to become a lawless country if we haven't already. And the moment that happens, we can say goodbye to the liberties that are enshrined within our democracy. Thank you.
Edwin, and then Zobaba Utemba, and then we conclude.
Thank you very much, Mbuyazi, to the presenter. In fact, I must say, you know, I not always get a chance to attend your sessions, but I think this session is one of the most critical to us as workers. I must say that, you know, we are seeing how do we get out of this challenge that you are facing in eThekwini municipality. As a provincial secretary that you are dealing with here, they affect us directly as workers. You know, but my main worry is that when we to pin our hope in the judiciary. I'm not saying that we must not pin our hope in the judiciary, but the challenges that we are facing are urgent challenges that need to be addressed now. And I know that the rule of law and judiciary is important for our democratic processes, but they sometimes happen to take very long. By the time you want to deal with this problem, I think matters would have gone under the bridge. I want to say, what are innovative measures that, because here as we are sitting, I'm saying, what is the solution? Because I have said to the trade unions, the affiliates of COSATU, I've said to them, we cannot really fold our arms and rest in our laurels. When we see this corruption that is taking place in the departments and the municipalities, why don't we stand up as workers and bring these things and deal with them? And some of the workers, they give you sometimes a very practical instances of cases where they say, remember, something happened to this comrade. Where is this comrade today? And all of us, we have forgotten about this comrade. And we dealt with matters, you know, recently what has been happening in water, what is happening in solid waste. I have people who have been compromised in promotion in positions of managers. I've got people who are running around running for their own lives because they've taken stance to expose these matters that we are talking about. As COSATU, from our standpoint, we fully agree, but we really think that there are other innovative measures and more urgent measures that we need to take to deal with these issues over and above what has been proposed here. We agree with what has been proposed, but we really think that, I'm worried, Mbuyas, that we've got such a small platform here. Then I'm asking myself a question. Our poor people in Claremont, our poor people in Kwandenges, our poor people in Guamashu, in Inanda, those people that can't have water because of this scourge of corruption that we are talking about, how much do they know about these things, and what is it that can be done to actually deal with this thing? And I want to propose that over and above what we have raised, we must really come up with a program to bring consciousness to our people, conscientize our people about what is happening, and also mobilize our people around what is happening. You know, the billing system in eThekwini, there are people who are paying for electricity that they've not used. There are people that are paying water that they've not used. And all those issues are issues of incapacity. When our union trades on the issues that the municipal manager in eThekwini decided to increase his salary, to equalize it with other municipal managers in other metros, leaving the workers. And then that rose to some kind of a stalemate. When workers took to the street on that issue, and workers were blamed all over, no one was looking at what the municipal manager has done. But when we were trying to find the solutions on that matter, the municipal manager had never attended even a single meeting. He was nowhere to be found. So the other issue that we need to deal with as I'm sitting down is the use of money, is the use of taxpayers' money to actually influence politicians not to take decisions about these issues. That is a big issue, because eThekwini is responsible for billions of rands of ratepayers. And that money sometimes will be used to actually influence politicians not to take decisions that they're supposed to take. At some stage, we're talking about the issue of this city being put under administration. We don't know how that matter disappeared because of these challenges. These are the issues that we need to go out, mobilize workers, mobilize the working class, mobilize the poor to say this is what is happening and be able to deal with these issues decisively. I think that's what we want to also submit over and above what you have put. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for the presentation. And thank you for being bold. Kulesi simo esikusona. First of all, I think I want to agree with you and support your call that there have to be a class action on this matter. Without a class action, nothing will happen. Whether you like it or not. You see, they will just look at you. Yes. You see. The presenter keep on saying that why you people are keeping quiet when these things are happening. I want to escalate your question. Today, most of you here know that daily Netanyahu is killing people in Palestine. Daily. And the whole world is tolerating that. There will be pockets of uprising here and there. But in overall, we can say there is tolerance of that things happening there. Now the question is why? The answer to that is what you see here in eThekwini. It's what you see here in eThekwini. I'll be a little bit ideological. As long as it is the system that is being applied here in South Africa, predominantly in the world, which is a capitalist system, it operates like this. It operates like this. You see, it operates like this. So they can tolerate, we cannot, for example, others can be very unlucky and be acted upon. But if it is Kabashe here, they will deal with you. You see, they will deal with you. If we, South Africa, can go and do the same thing Israel is doing in Palestine, they will deal with us decisively. In one day, aeroplanes will fly all over South Africa and they'll mow us down. You see, and they are not doing it in Palestine. For the same reason, they are not acting upon people who are doing whatever the corruption. For the same reason, it is the system. You see, it is the system. That's why I said I support a lot of the call that requires a class action. It's a little bit better to attend to this situation. Because the same thing, a question can be raised that why up to now, after spending so many billions on the state capture report, nothing has happened. There is a state capture report. So the same question can be asked. There are many other commissions that have produced scintillating reports of corruption, of criminal acts. Nothing have happened. See, nothing have happened. So that's why I said, for now, without taking a lot of time, we need to support this call for a class action. I think the presenter will agree with me that justice in South Africa have been homotonicized. Thank you.
3 minutes, 2 minutes, we are concluded.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys, I think to sum up the engagements of the evening, I think we can agree, especially what was said by our elder, the last speaker, is that we're dealing with a systemic problem. The system is broken. The levers of government that's supposed to deal with corruption and consequence management are compromised. The system, to a large extent, I agree with what he said, is influenced by patronage and by money. It's clear ukuthi iningi labantu bayagcotshwa. Imlomo yakhona igcotshiwe. So it's known within, I've served the departments within this country from the highest to the lowest, throughout every province, in and out of the country over the last 3 decades. It's the same thing correctly as the speaker from Action SA said. The exact same thing happens locally, regionally, provincially, and nationally. The patronage system is what has collapsed political ideologies completely. In the old days, in the 80s, some of us will remember what they called people that pretended to be revolutionary, but were clandestinely dealing with the other side. One they called abokomtsotsi. What happened to our view of not tolerating persons that claimed to have put their hand to the plow of fighting the revolution for the benefit of the people while they sought to enrich their own stomachs? Why did we stop calling them abokomtsotsi? Why did we stop giving them the disdain or their just deserves? We began to, as you correctly said, tolerate them. I'm not saying that we should do anything harsh to them like what was done in the old days. But because the rule of law allows for us in the civilized society that we find ourselves, mechanisms to attend to them, these must be put in place. And when I talk about class actions, Baba, I'm not only just talking about long-winded litigation. There are quick systems and quick wins that you can do. When it comes to disciplinary inquiries, these are all matters that are subject to the authority vested in a mayor, vested in an exco, vested in your committees within the municipality that must pass resolutions to have action taken, including the termination of contracts of certain people. The Systems Act also directs you on what you can do if within the council they fail to take certain actions. You escalate, you go back to the MEC, you go up national. So you can deal with these issues, not only, as others had said, through the slow processes of litigation through the courts. You also use the powers that you have within the legal framework to get rid of people within the public sector that ought not to be there. They have an employment contract. The employment contract is subject to your internal disciplinary processes. And if you want to bypass a long-winded legal process, I offer that you deal with them departmentally, also collectively. There's absolutely no way that an individual can survive multiple collective complaints that are brought by, where's the union reps? By unions that would come and lobby and engage employees and bring those employees together that have evidence and information that amount to misconduct. Come to people like us to help you package that evidence in a manner that it will become admissible at a disciplinary inquiry. Present it then to the leadership to say, here is our charge against that individual. You are not a king, you're bound by law to take action against this person. Here's the evidence. We are standing as one complainant, although we are a mess. I'm moved today to hear representatives of the union saying that not in our name, because when you have the interest of the workers at heart, and this has then been done to the workers, you have to act. So when we talk about class action, we're not only talking about in the legal space where you must run up and down to court, as well within the confines of the labor provisions of the municipality. No one within a municipality and within those structures cannot be dismissed, including a city manager. It takes us to make it happen. Thank you.
Leo, let me say thanks for being a good patriot. That's where I will end with my compliments to you, is to say thanks for being a good patriot and keep it up. And we need more of people like you, because we know nowadays that our professionals, they are more concerned about the debit orders that always knock in their bank accounts at the end of the month. And we know very well that professionals' aspiration is not different from the people that currently we are dealing with, because the people, the real perpetrators of crime in our state institutions are the professionals. And it's said that the middle class, or the professionals who are supposed to be the torch bearers, the firewalls that protect the underprivileged, but are the same people who go out and destroy the future or the livelihoods of the underprivileged. What hurt me more is that in the South African scenario, when you look at the rise of the Afrikaners, it was the middle class that propelled the Afrikaners to be that powerful bloc in the contestation of the South African economy between them and the British. In 1993 or 1994, when the chosen black middle class were given that responsibility to say, here's your chance to propel your people to another level, because we were subhumans. That's how the system designed us. Unfortunately, our middle class decided to create a rabbit hole for us. And then they drag us to that rabbit hole. We are in that rabbit hole as we speak. Unfortunately, those who are 40, 45, let me say 30, 25 to 40, they don't have a future in this country, because that rabbit hole soon is going to close for them. Why I'm saying that, if you go to statistics, number of those people are unemployed. Number of those people that don't have a house or a home. They are destitute. We romanticize them as the middle class, as the missing class. But the fact of the matter is, the rabbit hole is closing on them. The question that we have to ask ourselves, what is the role of us as the middle class? Because we know it very well that these Gothic mansions and this aristocratic life that we aspire are not permanent. As I've always used an example, those who stays in Pinetown or in Claremont, they know very well that New German, New German, Sanya, and so forth, were pristine suburbs. But look at them today. Look at Glenwood today. Look at Durban North. Look at Umhlanga. Why I'm using these examples is that even those who claim that the best investment is in property, let me tell you something. That's a fallacy. If the society, through corruption, is at the stage where we are currently. Because if you stay in a 10 million house, somewhere in Zimbabwe, or somewhere, wherever, in Mount Ashcombe, after you have stolen from the municipality. If in that house you don't have electricity and water, you are not different from a person who stays KwaMashu, KwaNdengeze, Claremont, eMkhukhwini. Because what connects you is the dehumanization of not having the basic service delivery from the municipality. The only difference is that when you are staying in a decorated shack of a 10 million, the other one is accepted that his shack is just a shack. You are staying in a decorated shack. And another phenomena of which we need to accept is that the professional, they steals from the poor and use these concepts of saying, I'll invest in my kids. I'll take my kids into the Model C schools or in these other schools. But the fact of the matter is the world is round. We live in an ecosystem. A child that you stole from him or from her as a municipality official, he or she will meet your child somewhere. And you know where? Possible at university, possible at nightclub, or in any social space. And he will bring that condemned child that you stole from him into your house. And you know what will happen thereafter. I will say, why are you bringing this one? It's not because you don't like that child, because of the guilt that you have. And so we are not going to escape our sins. We can fool ourselves. We are not going to escape our sins. Why I'm saying this is because the culprits, the people who steal from that municipality or from any government institution is the black middle class, the professionals. They are useful fools. They are useful fools. I'm using it openly because they can be manipulated by an Indian, by a colored, by whatever. But the people who are responsible at this present moment in this democracy to take this country forward is the black middle class. All the culprits who are in that document, the person that we've been shouting here is a well-educated person. Some of them, they are doctors. They got those PhDs from DUT, you know. Yeah, they got those PhDs from DUT. Leadership, something there we know. Others, they got it from Westville, those masters. But fine, they have those papers, you know. And now they are qualified to be professionals, but they are not academics or intellectuals. They just have papers. And so, meaning that we even stole the degrees, we steal everything so that we can, you know, present this false identity. We have said in the beginning that this seminar, you might think that it's just a simple thing. Let me tell you something. It was the most difficult seminar to do it because it was not dealing with the abstract. It was dealing with the real issues of our society. And it was not dealing with people that we don't know. It was dealing with people that we know. And we are, yes, Babu Temba, ni alliance enough. And Ubabu Edwin, you protect these workers from them, but you also have a bargaining council where you compromise and reach agreements with the people that are on the opposite side. Those are the contradictions of our society. And so we agreed that I'm not used to that term that you used when we said it might be our solution. I think we have to explore it. And we have to hand it over to the vanguard of the poor and the workers to do that, of which is the SACP. We will talk with them to say, be the vanguard now. Lead us. Protect the poor, protect the workers. And so it will be the responsibility of the SACP. We will negotiate with them, and we will come back to you. I'm a very honest person. If they don't want to be part of this, I will come back and say to you, that vanguard is a vanguard for something else, not for this. You get them. But fortunately, they are also contesting elections, and so I think they will be part of this, so that it can be their ticket to contest election, a campaign. I'm giving you a strategy now. And so we will meet, and we will meet the SACP, and to say, can you lead this thing? If they don't want to lead it, we'll come back to you and say, SACP said no. You know, it's to accept and to do this thing is almost about, it's not even a month. It's quick. You get what I mean? Yeah, and so the capitalist system, all this teaching will come to be exposed if you really have that true consciousness against capitalism and corruption in our municipality. And the last thing that I would like to say, at least now we have a way forward. This thing is going to be led by the SACP. We are going to send those court papers. You'll help us and others who want to do that. And the fund for that, crowdfunding, will be led by the SACP. I think it's better to do that because it's an institution, it's an organization that publicly is claiming that it's doing these things. Because I don't want to do it. Why I don't want to do it? In one meeting like this, we met and we said, there is a committee, people must go and fight. Hey, my daughter, I ended up alone. You see, because I was Xola and I ended up alone. And I fought for those people, for the food nutrition. Unfortunately, again, the beneficiaries of those food nutritions are nowhere to be seen. And so what I'm trying to say is that when you fight for social justice, you must not expect anything in return. And the people that you are fighting for, you must not expect them to support you. And even if you have achieved the result, don't expect them to come back to you and say thank you. Because we live in a thankless society. And so what I'm trying to say is, this journey is a thankless one. We're not doing a favor to you. We don't want compliments to you. We don't want anything. We will see what we can do with the SACP and Leo and the others who might want to join. That's why I'm saying I don't want to say sit behind. Kapash, you can leave. We don't want, we'll talk with Ubabu Temba. And then I will come back to you and tell you that Ubabu Temba, I said, Xolani, I don't want to be part of this. And then we will see what we do. But as I've said, we don't want to recruit people to say, be part of this committee. These are the things that we'll do, because I know we say 6 o'clock, people come at 7. And then we say at 7 and people say, hey, I was in hospital, I was sick. You see, and so there is something that we'll try to do. If we fail, it will be a worthless fight. I mean, a very useful or the most important fight that we are going to lose. But definitely, I don't remember losing any. We are going to win this because we are dealing with human beings. I don't think with Musa, if we have such a concrete evidence, is going to last. He's a human being with conscience, he's got kids, he's got family. He knows what is right and what is wrong. And he can't live in a society that is no longer in need of him in terms of his service. That's the fact. You see, he's not a president, and he's got a term that will come to an end. And we don't know the future of this country. We don't know the power of the MK party. We don't know the power of the SACP or of the DA. And we don't know what might happen to those who have been pillaging the future of our kids. Because the courts are still there. The courts are still there. And so somewhere, somehow, they are going to account. If they're not going to account through courts and justice, but nature has got its ways of making people to account. That's the ultimate court. The nature has got its ways, you like it or not, to make you to account.